Good evening. I'm Mayor Dawn Morgan, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. It is Tuesday, April 6th, and we're glad to have you join us here tonight. We'll begin this evening with an invocation by Reverend Dr. Michael Walton of LC3 Church, Liberty Community Christian Church. At this point in time, I'll recognize Pastor Walton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I ask your patience with me as I'm about to lose my voice, but I'm going to press through this. Greetings to our distinguished board and all my fellow Kernervillians who are in attendance. Let us pray. Dear wise and loving Father, in whom we live, move, and have our being, all of our life and times are in your hands. Thank you on behalf of all those who are gathered here today, Father. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself and for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings for substance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work that we can continue to do as you have required of us, Father. In Scripture, you said there's safety in the multitude of counsel, and that citizens ought to obey the governing authorities, since you have established these very authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, Father, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would gracefully grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflict and interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony, even when there's honest disagreement, and then personal peace in their individual lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before us today, Father. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live, work in, and around this beloved city of Kernersville. This I pray in the blessed name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We really appreciate you joining us here tonight and praying for us. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. I will drop now.
All right, next we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the pledge.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, the first item on our agenda is a ceremonial presentation. But before we turn our attention to that, we'll do a roll call because this is a remote meeting, and that is a requirement of a remote meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Jenny Fulton.
Here. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Alderman Bruce Boyer.
Present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Joe Penix.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kenny Cruz.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Chris Thompson.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Town Manager Kurt Swisher.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Town Attorney John Wolf.
Hit the wrong button. I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm present. Thank you.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Town Attorney Ed Powell.
Present, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Our IT Director Adam Hutchins is on the call. Town Clerk Keith Hooker.
Present.
Thank you. Community Development Director Jeff Hatley.
Present.
Thank you. Fire Rescue Chief Scott Alderman.
Present, Mayor. Also with me is Deputy Chief Ronnie Bowles.
Thank you. Welcome, Ronnie. Parks and Rec Director Ernie Pages.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance Director Franz Ader.
Present.
Thank you. Public Services Director, Dorn Malpa.
Present.
Thank you. Police Chief Tim Summers is in the courtroom, Curtis.
Correct.
Thank you. HR Director Crystal Tanner, is she in the courtroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there any other staff on the call you'd like to include in this?
Jonathan Wishart from Public Services. I think he was on the call earlier and he still is.
Okay, and I see maybe Catherine Garner from Community Development Department.
Yes, ma'am. She's on the call also. I do see her name.
Catherine, let's test your microphone.
I'm present. Thank you.
Thank you. And many of you involved with the meeting tonight are involved with the nonprofit organizations in the chamber. You may not yet have met Catherine. Catherine recently was a new employee in the Community Development Department, but she comes to us with extensive experience, including from Salisbury. And soon you'll get to meet her. So welcome, Catherine, to our meeting tonight. All right, so we have the presentation. Well, let me ask you, Mr. Swisher, is there anyone else?
No, ma'am. There's no one else from staff.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on then to the ceremonial presentations. It's my honor to declare the month of April as our celebration of Arbor Day, specifically April 23rd. Arbor Day can be celebrated many different days in the United States in March and April, and it's generally designated as a great day to plant a tree in the community. It was started in Nebraska by J. Sterling Morton, who actually was a newspaper man, and he was shocked by the lack of trees due to development in his home state of Nebraska. So started a national movement, and Kernersville participates in it. Kernersville is also a Tree City, USA, and that is one of the ways that Arbor Day is very special to our community. I know in the past we've planted trees at Town Hall, planted trees at schools, and it's just a great celebration of community. So this month, April 23rd, Arbor Day in Kernersville, and our Parks and Rec department is planning something with social distancing and recognizing all the gathering restrictions that we currently have, and we'll announce that later. In past years, we've had events that have included an entire grade at Kernersville Elementary School or a community gathering at Senior Gardens. So I look forward to what they can come up with in the time of the pandemic and all these restrictions. So thank you, Ernie, to you and to your staff at Kernersville Parks and Rec for all your hard work. All right, we will move on to our public hearings. Of course, the courtroom at Town Hall is open if you'd like to attend the meeting. There was an ability to basically stream this meeting, and you can call in if you have any comments on the public hearing. The phone number to call in tonight is 336-996-7289. Again, 336-996-7289. And we are accepting public comments after the public hearing that can be sent to our town clerk, which is Keith Hooker, and his email address is khooker@toknc.com. When an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending or calling in the case of a remote meeting, shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration, those speaking in favor speaking first and those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak. In the event that either proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers to represent their view, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the board. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. So proponents and opponents each get 20 minutes, and there's a 5-minute rebuttal on each side. So we have one public hearing on for tonight. It's an annexation. It's item 1A, voluntary annexation petition by Curtis Swisher, agent for the town of Kernersville, for property located on Beeson Road, across from Ivy Redmond Sports Complex at the intersection of Beeson Court, containing 13.539 acres, more or less. Is there a presentation?
No, Madam Mayor, this is the property that the town purchased a couple of months ago. As it says, it is on Beeson Road, right across the street from the existing dog park. It used to be a cornfield. Now the corn has been cut off and it's just a vacant lot there on Beeson Road.
So since there's not a map displayed, this is that parcel towards the back of the park, across from the dog park, not right up at the street, correct?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So this is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor?
There's not anyone in the courtroom.
Okay. Is there anyone who's called in to speak in favor of this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anyone in the courtroom to speak in opposition?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there anyone who's called in to speak in opposition?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Mr. Swisher, is this a time-sensitive issue, or can the board vote on it at our May meeting?
I think you can vote on it at your next meeting. We'll be fine.
Okay, I would like a motion to allow follow-up comments to this proposed annexation by 5 p.m. on Friday, April 9th, and to continue the vote on this item 1A, public hearing annexation, to the regular May meeting, May 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Bruce Boyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Chris Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyer.
In favor. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Penix.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that item is continued until May 4th for the purposes of a vote. If citizens would like to make comments, either in favor or opposed, we need to have the comments by Friday, April 9th at 5 p.m. and they can be sent to Keith Hooker, khooker at toknc.com. All right, we'll move on then to the public session. The next item is speakers from the floor. A few moments ago, Mr. Swisher, there was no one signed up to speak. Is that still the case?
I believe that is the case. Yes, there is someone here to speak. I see him now raising his hand out in the audience.
Okay.
Huh? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. He's on the agenda. So there's not anyone signed up as a speaker from the floor.
Okay, Mr. Hutchins, has anyone called in as a speaker from the floor?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. All right, I'll move on to item 2B then. Presentation by Barry Baker of the Kernersville Area Society of Pickleball Enthusiasts. At this time, I'll recognize Mr. Baker.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
I feel like I'm working in the round here with all the Zoom things here. My name is Barry Baker, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to speak this evening. A little over a year ago, our pickleball group at the Y and also at the fitness center was basically shut down. And a group of hardy people, due to the fact that Kernersville at the 4th of July Park has a pickleball blueprint or footprint, we were able to play pickleball on the tennis courts. And some of us were hardy enough to get out and keep playing. And our group started with about 6. And by summer, because of social distancing and things, our group had grown into the 30s or 40s. And actually, we ended up starting a Facebook group, and people came out to the park in the hot sun and we just kept playing pickleball. And it's a great exercise for us senior citizens that the health benefits are great. The health benefits are great. And I'd like to thank Ernie Pages of Parks and Recreation, who really stepped up with us when it got colder weather. And we secured a place to play indoors this past winter for the last 4 months. And now we're heading back outside again. But our Facebook group has grown into the 80s. And so we have a lot of interest. There's a lot of demand to play pickleball. And it's just a great exercise with some terrific people. And just to make a real long story short, we got around to getting something for Ernie so that his Parks and Recreation people can remember us, I guess is the best way to say. And a group of us, we took a pickleball paddle and we have signed it, and we're presenting it to Ernie and Casey Johnson and Adam Carpenter, and the people at Parks and Rec have done just an outstanding job. And I just want you folks to know how appreciative we are. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. We appreciate the recognition. Are there any comments or follow-up, or should I move on to the next item?
Mayor, I would just like to say, Ernie and Casey and Adam have really stepped up, and I want to say thank you and just go on record because they went above and beyond. So thank you.
All right, then we are on to item 1C, 2020 annual reports and 2021 budget requests. And so many of the representatives of our great local nonprofits are on this call and are going to speak about their organizations for these presentations. I'll first recognize the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce.
Hey there. Good evening, everyone. We were unable to have our video work, so I hope that you can hear me. My name is Chris Comer. I am the president here at the Kernersville Chamber. With me, I have Molly Smith. She's the marketing director of programs and downtown. And then we have Andrew Oliver, the director of engagement and economic progress. So I wanted to start with the slides that Jeff is showing. And Jeff, if you'll go to the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about us hitting the ground running when COVID hit. We immediately went and posted on our website 5 different blocks: takeout blitz, shopping guide, support local, and local community updates, as well as local health updates. The takeout blitz was extremely important to us because we wanted all of the restaurants in our community to have awareness raised that they were open for business, even if it was just the curbside pickup. Also with this blitz, we went ahead and took all of our member restaurants and gave folks an option to choose a restaurant for a gift card. We chose 2 people each week from the social media blitz, and they were able to choose $20 gift cards. We did this for 8 weeks just to try to get some money moving in the community. The Kernersville Cares Shopping Guide had a running list of all of our Kernersville businesses that allowed curbside pickup and delivery. We wanted to raise awareness of retail operations. And we want to thank Mayor Pro Tem Fulton for her Support Local t-shirt drive. We were happy to help just with the website portion. She did all of the work. But thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Those t-shirts were really important and still are.
Thank
Then
you.
we had you're welcome. Thank you. Then we had our local community updates, and this was the next slide, please. Then we went to our local community updates, and this was an ever-changing list of resources for our businesses, both local and regional and statewide. We wanted to make sure that they had resources at their fingertips, how to apply for the PPP, where to go for that, any of the other grant monies that were available, and then even the loans that were at 0 or 1%. And then our local health updates was an ongoing list of health updates in the community, including wear, wait, wash, and masking efforts, stopping the spread of COVID-19. And then Chamber Spotlight interviews. I've got to share with you that Andrew was here for a full week before we said that we've got to work from home. So on his week 3, he started Chamber Spotlight interviews. Next slide, please. I did want to share very briefly that our COVID-19 champions, and these are our businesses that folks have recommended are doing it right with COVID-19 safety. We have 22 of those businesses. And what that tells people, we hope, is that Kernersville is open for business and safely. We were also, thanks to the folks at Forsyth County Commissioners, we were able to afford 143 of our businesses free personal protective equipment. So we were really thankful to our commissioners for that. We had to postpone a few things until later. And I have to say that we really thought in our hearts we were going to be able to do Magnolias and Mimosas, Healthy Living Expo, and our reverse Christmas parade, as well as Spring Folly. But as you all know, a lot of those things had to be put off because of the increase in COVID cases. So Magnolias and Mimosas did have to get moved to 2021. Healthy Living Expo, the same. And our reverse Christmas parade, which we thought was going to be a dead ringer, we had to go ahead and pull back on that one as well. Next slide, please. I am really proud to say that September 24th, 25th, and 26th of 2021, we will be having the Kernersville Spring Folly. That's all I have, but I'd like to introduce Andrew to talk about switching it up. Next slide, please.
So we took this opportunity to not only pivot through this season, but switched it up in a lot of our events this year. So one of the things we did was the boutique crawl. Like Chris talked about, we had to cancel Magnolias and Mimosas. Boutique crawl gave us an opportunity to still bring funds into our boutiques and businesses downtown and other areas in our community. It was sold out, it was socially distant, and a fun time for everyone involved. Another opportunity we got to do was Pumpkins and Pinot. We hosted painting parties that were socially distant and fun that supported local breweries and restaurants. Lastly is Baubles and Brews. We hosted ornament painting parties that were socially distant and fun that supported the local breweries and restaurants as well. Next slide. Small Business Development Series was an opportunity that we did virtually to target towards small businesses to learn how to market themselves during COVID-19, including virtual options. Also, WSJS provided each attendant free radio spots during this time. Also, of course, with the help of the town of Kernersville, we got to do downtown drive-through trick-or-treat. Great opportunities that provide a safe and fun trick-or-treat option experience in our downtown area while also bringing exposure to the Kernersville businesses. Business before hours, even though we were not able to do those live and in person, we took this opportunity to do them on Zoom and do them virtually. We continue to host these events on Zoom to allow our members and businesses to network with other business leaders in our community. Next slide, please. Our Economic Development Committee came together and we put on a Kernersville Economic Progress Report that goes out every other month now. It was a good opportunity to bring awareness to our community about economic progress opportunities and available commercial listings. Think Kernersville First was an opportunity marketing efforts over the holidays to encourage our community to shop local. Evening Golf League. We put on a fall evening golf league this year, provide a safe and fun evening of golf for our members, and currently have the spring golf going on now. Next slide, please. Again, Chris talked about Spring Folly moving to the fall this year. Because of that, we are doing an opportunity in May called Fair Food to Go in the Chamber parking lot. This is efforts to bring awareness and a fundraising opportunity to our local civic groups, and opportunity to still fundraise throughout this time. Also, we had our first ever downtown date night this year that, with the help of downtown restaurants and tourism landmarks, brought awareness to our nonprofits. And very recently, we were able to do the State of Kernersville, which hosted a virtual State of Kernersville to bring the citizens to town leadership to address how the town is doing due to COVID-19. Next is Molly.
Hey, everybody. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right. So we are really looking forward to 2021 and all that it has to offer. Like Chris and Andrew mentioned, we do fully anticipate having a fun Spring Folly in September 25th, 26th, and 27th. You can see updates and other things that we're hoping to bring on our Facebook as well as our website. Also this year, we look forward to seeing Eating for Education again, not only to support our local restaurants, but also our local educators. This is a program that's extremely beneficial to the community, and we love hosting it. We love working with everybody. So that brings me to Farm to Table. This is an inaugural event this year. We are hoping to connect farmers, local restaurants, and businesses to create just a really special opportunity to kind of connect once again. It's going to be a really fun live event with fine dining. Next slide, please. So next we have the business showcase. Again, this will just be an opportunity for us to showcase more of our businesses in Kernersville. They'll have the opportunity to talk to others in this community, whether that's about what their business is, what they hope to do, what their mission is, and even the opportunity to talk about hiring opportunities. Next is the Women in Business Conference. This will be a really awesome opportunity for our women in our community to connect in a professional setting. It's going to be a really inspiring, resourceful meeting. We've already got a lot of people signed up, so we are excited. Thank you, Mayor Morgan, for speaking at that, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, for signing up today. We really look forward to that event. Also coming up, we have Lunch with Leaders presented by FedEx Ground. The next topic is going to be featuring Dr. Ohl and offers a healthcare perspective on COVID-19. In addition to that, some other opportunities that we've provided recently was the Downtown Roundtable. Mayor Morgan, thank you for jumping on that this morning. That's an opportunity for our downtown businesses to kind of get a little bit more of an educational piece. This morning, Aixa Maria from Aixa Maria's Gift Basket spoke about social media tips to other downtown businesses, and they could ask questions and kind of bounce ideas off of each other. Okay, and that last slide, last slide, we've got Kernersville Connect, Pathways to a Skilled Trade. The Chamber is really excited to help prepare our kids today for a better workforce tomorrow. Andrew is hard at work with that committee to really get that next line of workers ready, kind of bring some educational aspects to these students. Next month, we will actually be having our first Music at Twilight in almost 2 years. It will be held at the Garden from May to August, and be on the lookout for some marketing for that. But that's a really awesome partnership that we do with the Paul J. Senior Botanical Garden and a lot of our sponsors. So we are super thankful for that collaboration. And then new this year, we will have Movies at Twilight, which is a fun kind of date night experience for the community. We're going to be hosting that at the Garden. They've been awesome enough to let us host it there. And we hope to bring in local restaurants and local nonprofits to help us with that effort. Do we have any questions?
Just a comment. I think you guys have done a great job. There's no manual for operating during a pandemic, and I think you've pulled out some very good programs to do that, and I can see a lot of new creativity for the future. So I really appreciate what you've done. Having sat in your chair before, then having to reconfigure everything, I think you've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Are there any other questions or comments? Well, thank you, Chris Comer, Molly Smith, and Andrew Oliver, and also to your chairman, Molly Barber, and your board of directors and volunteers for all of the hard work this past year. We're excited about your plans for the future. Thank you. All right, next we are to Senior Services. And I see Lee Covington, the President and CEO, Senior Services. I'll recognize you at this time.
Thank you, Mayor Morgan, and good evening, everyone. It is great to see you and great to be with you this evening. I'd like to start by just doing some quick background for folks who may be watching this evening who are not as aware of Senior Services. So if you'll go to the next slide, please. Our mission really can be summarized in one word, and that's dignity. Our work is focused on helping older adults across Forsyth County to remain in their homes for as long as possible, living and aging with dignity and purpose. And we also have a special affinity and support family caregivers who are helping with that work. Next slide, please. We are a private nonprofit organization that dates back to 1962, when a few women locally saw a need, came together and baked some food and delivered it to friends and neighbors. And that was the beginning of our Meals on Wheels program. So we're the oldest continuously operating Meals on Wheels program in the Southeast and the third oldest in the country. We are blessed with about 1,700 volunteers who help us carry out our mission, 110 amazing staff, 65 board members, and we could not do our work without the help of more than 3,700 faithful donors who give of their financial resources to help us meet our mission. We've got 7 major programs that you see there on the screen. Perhaps our best known is Meals on Wheels. That is our largest program that serves the most people, serving right now about 1,200 folks across Forsyth County. And we have an annual budget of $7.2 million. So taking a look at last year, and keep in mind that all of these data points were things that happened during a pandemic. Like many organizations, we had to shift consistently. We had to reinvent ourselves multiple times to respond to changes with the pandemic. And again, I'm so proud of our volunteers and our staff team who have come through this and hopefully are moving now to some version of new normal. But we served over 2,300 older adults directly across the county last year. Almost 400,000 hours of in-home nursing and personal care were provided either directly by our staff or through other organizations with whom we contract. We were able to deliver nearly 270,000 meals across the county, almost 28,000 pounds of groceries. Our Williams Adult Day Center provided almost 14,000 days of respite care and activity. Our Aging Resources team responded to over 13,000 500 requests for information and referral. And that army of amazing volunteers provided more than 38,000 hours of volunteer support for our mission. Why does all of this matter? Well, I think this chart illustrates that. The bar graph on the left represents 1990. The bar graph on the right is 2030. And so we're right there in that fourth bar chart, headed into the fifth one. And you'll see that Forsyth County will continue to experience rapid growth in the numbers of people age 60 and older. Those top two bars are of significance. The green bar represents folks age 75 to 84, and the purple is folks 85 and older. And so you'll see over this next 10-year period, that's where Forsyth County will experience the most dramatic growth in those two age groups. Let's talk a little bit about Kernersville, and you probably already know this, but a little over 23% of your population is age 60 and older. And you'll see the breakdown there of men versus women. So about 5,700 folks total. And amazingly, 834 of your residents are 80 years and older. So many folks received support from senior services, 286 people last year. And that was 12.4% of the total number of people that we served across the entire Forsyth County area. So let's break that down by program. Of those 286, Meals on Wheels served 127 people. Our senior lunch program served 43. We served 19 people with home care services in their home. 24 people were part of our Medicaid waiver living at home program. 7 folks attended our Williams Adult Day Center, and 66 other residents were engaged in other programs provided by senior services. The 286 does not include 459 phone calls or emails from residents of Kernersville asking for information or needing referral to other organizations. So your support made this possible. This past year, we were thankful to receive $12,500 from the town of Kernersville, and this helped us continue the 9 Meals on Wheels routes that we've had for the past few years. It has continued to grow. We added that 9th route a couple of years ago, you may recall, and we may be looking into the future to add an additional route as the needs continue to grow. So thank you again for that support this year. And our request for the coming year is that you stretch that a little bit to $15,000. This will help us to continue to sustain and expand our current Meals on Wheels numbers and the delivery of those services in Kernersville. You may be aware that for the past year, our Meals on Wheels program has continued to operate, but in a slightly different way. Instead of daily hot meals, we had shifted to weekly delivery of a box of 5 frozen meals. And I am thrilled to tell you this evening that we are planning now to shift back to daily hot delivery starting May 3rd. So I know that our Meals on Wheels recipients and families are excited about that. Our volunteers are excited about that because, as you know, that daily interaction, that moment of human connection that happens when the person comes to the door and the volunteer hands over that hot meal, that interaction perhaps is often more important than the meal itself. So we're very excited to have Meals on Wheels moving back to some version of normal starting May the 3rd. So at this point, I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Lee, this is Bruce Boyer. First of all, I think you've done a good job in your report of highlighting the effect on Kernersville. I think that's been a help to us. I have 2 questions. What other towns and cities contribute to senior services is my first question.
Mm-hmm. It's a good question. We do get support from the town of Louisville, and we also get support, of course, from Forsyth County.
Okay. And the other question, and it's probably a no-brainer, but am I correct in assuming that our money goes towards services for people that can't afford it, but there are, of course, many additional people that probably pay for the services? Is that correct?
That is a correct assumption. We do have a variety of funding sources, and many of our programs have folks who can't afford to pay for the service, and they do. But your funds go directly to provide Meals on Wheels, home delivered meals to residents of Kernersville who cannot afford to pay for the service.
Okay, thank you, Lee.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Lee, this is Joe Penix.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about the interaction with the people is just as important sometimes as the meal. How long, and I know it's all different, but how long could a delivery person expect to stay when they made one delivery? And how many deliveries did they make a day?
That's a great question, and you're right. It does depend. Every route is a little different. Every meal recipient is a little different. Some folks are just glad to see the meal and do a quick wave and a hi, and that's the extent of the interaction. We do have a number of folks who maybe that's the only person they see all day, so they really try to spend as much time with that volunteer who's there as possible. Typically, our routes are somewhere between 8 and 12 or 13 stops, and we encourage volunteers to get that done within an hour and a half. We have to get the meals delivered while they're still hot, and we do have mechanisms to keep them warm. So I would say at the most, probably 4 or 5 minutes would be the maximum of an interaction.
Well, that 4 or 5 minutes sometimes is the only interaction they have all day. So I think it's just a wonderful, wonderful program.
Well, thank you. And you were so right. Many of our meal recipients, that is the only interaction that they get. And that's why we're so excited about returning to that daily hot meal delivery in May, because folks have really missed that interaction.
I'm sure. Well, thank you and your folks for all you do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Lee. We appreciate your presentation, your work with senior services, and your volunteers.
Thank you so much.
All right, the next report and budget request is by the Senior Center. And I'll recognize Lisa Miller, the Senior Center Director.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present our annual report this evening. We appreciate your support and want to thank each of you for your belief in our programs and continued support of the Shepherd Center of Kernersville Senior Enrichment Center. Statistics and numbers inked on a piece of paper can't even begin to tell a full story of the past year for the Senior Center. As you know, the Senior Center serves one of, if not the most vulnerable population for this pandemic. March 9th through 13th of last year was our last normal week of programming and services for the center. On March 16th, we halted most of our programs and services except for our information and referral service and telephone reassurance well check calls. Like most, we envisioned 2 to 3 weeks of closure, but by the end of the 2 weeks, I think we all knew the meaning of sheltering at home, quarantine, and isolation. And our staff began to look for new ways to put chaos and uncertainty back in order, one small step at a time. Our staff began to work remotely in April. Staff took on the responsibility of making the telephone reassurance calls and well check calls, not only to our regular daily recipients of this service, but to our Senior Center volunteers and participants as well. What used to be a typical 5-minute, maybe 10-minute conversation with someone during the day turned into a 30 or 40-minute call as the reality of this pandemic set in for our folks. The computer lab volunteers at the Senior Center and Senior Center staff began offering virtual and remote technical assistance for individuals trying to navigate their computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones in new and different ways. And while we were not only we were able to serve as many individuals in 2020 as we did in 2018. Both years we served over 180 units of service with computer technical assistance and teaching. While we weren't able to match the numbers of 2019, we were quite pleased to see that we were able to match what we had done the year before. We began to rally our volunteers to make masks we could then distribute and give to our participants and volunteers. Our senior center staff began to look for new ways to keep our participants and volunteers engaged while staying at home. We created a virtual e-newsletter full of activities they can enjoy from the safety of their own home. As an organization, we were able to add a new personal grocery and pharmacy shopping service to our offerings. And this was for those who are aging and disabled in our community. In addition to our staff assisting with this new program, the Summit Church staff and volunteers, the staff at Carmine's Import Service, and a handful of our regular volunteers stepped up and became true blessings by volunteering to fulfill or pick up vital groceries and medications for our older adults. And I can't begin to tell you the number of phone calls we received from individuals who were frantic because they couldn't get out to get their medications, they couldn't get out to get to the grocery store, because we were under stay-at-home orders, or because they could not drive, they were no longer driving, or because they were just flat afraid to get outside and go somewhere. But from April through December, we were able to provide 26 individuals through this new program with just under 120 grocery store, food pantry, and pharmacy trips. In May, our staff returned to our offices, and we began to regroup and look at what we could do in terms of programming and services instead of what we weren't able to do. And this has remained our focus. Because we could not offer on-site programming and our seniors were still sheltering at home, our senior center staff began to cross-train and assist in other areas of our organization. We began to take on responsibilities and roles that were once provided by our volunteers. We continued with our daily phone call, telephone reassurance recipients, calling our participants and our volunteers, and we continued to collect and distribute masks and to provide the personal shopping services. On May 13th, through transportation grants that we have through NCDOT and Winston-Salem Foundation, our staff was once again able to schedule rides for medical appointments. We did use local van transportation services like Carolina Custom Transportation, Here to There Transportation, and Classic Cab. The two van services were able to transport our folks who were wheelchair bound. When a volunteer might not be able to do that, or Classic Cab could not do it, they were able to do that. And these services were provided for aging and disabled adults in our community. This was so vital as prior to March 13th of last year, we were utilizing about 50 transportation volunteers on a regular basis. During the peak of the pandemic, we couldn't use any of our volunteer drivers. And we just don't realize how vital it is to be able to provide something as simple as a trip to a doctor's appointment, and how we take the ability to drive for granted every day. One of the most memorable moments from last year for me personally, I was working our transportation office and I received a phone call from one of our recipients who had also been a long-time senior center participant. And she called me to cancel her visits to the cancer center here in Kernersville. And I'll be honest, my heart dropped and I dreaded what I thought she was going to tell me next. But instead, she said, thank you. And that because we were able to reopen our transportation services and provide rides to chemotherapy, she was now in remission. Had we not had those transportation grants, had we not had folks willing to step up and take her to those appointments, she wouldn't be where she's at right now. So to me, that was wonderful. Not only because we did that, but because I knew her so well. We were able to reopen our durable medical equipment loan program during that time and began loaning wheelchairs, rollators, walkers, canes, shower benches to folks who needed them. A few of our handy persons got back out into the community and were doing outside jobs, working in people's yards, fixing sidewalks, door hinges, those kinds of things, as long as it was on the exterior of the building. The Senior Center began offering virtual programming with a yoga class. Our book club began to meet off-site at 4th of July Park. We began allowing visits to the Senior Center by appointment, one-on-one, for folks who wanted to come by, who were by then bored, wanted jigsaw puzzles or art supplies, craft supplies, so they could continue to work on projects at home. Through the summer and into early fall, we continued offering these services and offered more virtual programming. We added our caregiver support group virtually, tatting. We added some health and wellness classes and a few other things. Our staff continued to cross-train in other services. And the Senior Center prepared to fully take over the medical equipment loan program from the Shepherd Center. I'm not sure if you're aware, but all of our equipment was actually stored in the attic of the building on Bodenhammer Street. And we felt like now was the opportunity to fully move it to the senior center where we have the elevator and we could better serve the folks in our community who needed those items and could do it quicker. Our watercolor class and a few of our regular monthly lunch participants began meeting weekly outdoors with Harmon Park and Triad Park being favorite places to meet. And then we were able to close out our 2020 income tax season and begin to prepare for how we could possibly do an income tax service this year. Senior center staff, we began to be more proactive, and we developed reopening strategies and guidelines to have in place for eventual return to on-site programming at the senior center in late May, June, and early July. Our guidelines were developed based on recommendations, of course, set by CDC, OSHA, State of North Carolina, Forsyth County, and then the staff here at the town of Kernersville and the Chamber of Commerce staff were incredibly helpful with us and have been tremendously supportive throughout this. And I would like to personally thank and let you know how much Angie Whitley helped us during this process. She answered so many of my questions. She came to the senior center and did a walkthrough with me. We went room by room. We went through the whole building, and she made a lot of suggestions and recommendations that we have put in place so that we could safely reopen and bring our seniors back safely into the facility. By October, all the medical equipment has been moved to their senior center. And by October, about 10 of our 50 volunteers, drivers, had returned to making those trips for our folks to medical appointments and assisting them with things. We began delivering floral arrangements through bouquets through our Project Joy, which we were doing on a weekly basis. We had a new walking group meeting out at 4th of July Park once a week. In November and December, we were able to reopen our doors for limited on-site programming. We were one of only a few senior centers in the country and only one of a few senior centers in North Carolina who attempted to reopen. And we did with a few programs during each week. During those 2 months. But however, once the numbers went up after the holidays were over, we decided we would scale back, and we've been off site until this week. And yesterday was our first day bringing some limited programming on site. And of course, we're following every safety precaution we can with our folks with requiring masks, social distancing, cleaning and sanitizing before and after each group comes in. And then in May and June, we hope to continue to add more programs until we can get back up to speed. Our fundraising efforts were challenging for us last year. The senior center, we were only able to hold one fundraising activity last year specifically for the senior center, which was held the last week in February, which was an annual quilters retreat. And looking back, boy, were we lucky for the weekend we selected for that. And then as an organization, the Shepherd Center was able to hold our golf tournament in the fall, as well as our 2 annual giving campaigns that we hold, one in the summer and one at the end of the year. Yes, our year was challenging, and at times it was uncertain. However, I feel we were able to create some order from the chaos, and we were able to utilize our staff and resources in new ways to create new programs and services. As we continue to move through this pandemic, we know we may have to close our doors again. And we know we might even have to scale back a little bit. But because of the things we had set in place in the past and the things that we created last year, we're more than prepared to move forward. And we're looking forward to what's going to happen this year. We look forward to our participants and volunteers returning. We look forward to being able to continue providing much needed necessary services like transportation, for personal shopping, caregiver support, medical equipment loan, our handy persons being able to do more, our telephone reassurance program, and much more. While we may not reach the number of programs and services and the number of individuals we've served in recent years, we will get there. Looking at numbers on paper, comparing 2020 to 2019, things were definitely not normal. But we are proud of what we were able to accomplish. We did have 104 volunteers provide approximately 5,000 hours of service to the center. When compared to our volunteer statistics in years prior, this makes us realize more than ever how vital our volunteers are to our organization and being able to provide all that we can provide. Over 1,200 programs, services, events, and activities were offered to over 1,700 participants. These activities included on-site programming fully through January, February, mid-March, and then switching to virtual and conference call programs, and then some limited on-site programs towards the end of the year. We loaned 241 pieces of durable medical equipment to 159 individuals to assist them with safety, mobility, and comfort, or to help them with rehabilitation after surgeries or injuries. Even though we couldn't fully complete our tax service or tax season last year, we were able to provide 453 tax returns to just under 800 individuals. 90% of those served were older adults, 1/3 were minorities, and all were low to moderate income. And this year, I checked the numbers today, and with curbside and virtual tax preparation, we should be able to prepare between 350 to 400 tax returns this year. We were able to offer some health screenings in January through mid-March with some student nurse interns. And then throughout the rest of the year, we could do Medicare insurance counseling and financial counseling virtually. More than ever, we have provided information referral for aging services and other services that we don't offer. We already had a well-run information and referral system in place, and we were more than ready as a go-to resource for our folks when the pandemic hit. Our 2020 story would not be complete without thanking the many volunteers and community supporters who stood beside us this year. Those who volunteered to pick up groceries and medications, to deliver flowers, to send cards and notes of encouragement to our recipients and participants, to prepare taxes, to those who collaborated with us to offer virtual programming, those who provided masks, cleaning products, and hand sanitizer, and the Chamber of Commerce was a tremendous support for us in providing PPE, and those who made our well-check calls, and so very much more. Our senior center is one I think our community can continue to be proud of. Even during a pandemic, during uncertainty, we were able to meet and serve the needs of the most vulnerable in our population and in our community. We were able to continue to provide exemplary services and opportunities. We were able to serve as a mentor and role model for other senior centers, not only in North Carolina, but across the country, by having our reopening plan in place by January of last year and by being one of the few who could reopen last year. Earlier this year, we began offering rides to older and disabled adults to get their COVID vaccines, and we began offering rides for folks who needed to go for dialysis. We've never been able to offer that in the past, but we were able to do that this year. As of today, approximately 25 of our 50 volunteer drivers have returned, freeing up our staff to focus on reopening and to focus on new program services and opportunities. Through the rest of this year, our main goal is going to be to slowly, methodically, and safely re-implement on-site programming, following all of our strict safety guidelines. We'll continue to offer virtual programs with several on-site classes. We're also doing what we call a hybrid. A lot of our on-site classes will also be offered virtually, so folks who still aren't wanting to come out to the senior center quite yet, they'll still be able to stay engaged as a participant. We want to reorganize our volunteers at the senior center and start to utilize them in a different way. If anything, we've learned this past year and I've talked about it in the past before, what isolation does to someone. And we want to add kind of like another layer to our telephone reassurance program to where we can reach isolated seniors in our community by using volunteers to call them. It may not be a daily well-check call. Call them once a week, call them every other week, do a porch visit, send them notes, send them cards, letting them know that someone out there still knows they're there, still knows that they're important. And if they have a need, they would be able to reach out to that volunteer and then get with us so we can connect them with services. In January, we partnered with the Winston-Salem Urban League, and we were able to add a daily volunteer to assist us in our senior center. She works 20 hours a week, and this was through the Senior Community Service Employment Program. This is a community service and work-based job training program for older adults, and it provides training for low-income unemployed seniors. We also, last year, in 2018, we added a worker to that program to help at the Shepherd Center office, and then by the end of last year, we'd add a second one. So we have 3 workers who are employed by the Urban League through this program, but they're considered volunteers with us. We're excited to see what this year's going to hold for us. We know there may be times when we need to close down again and scale back, but we did it before and we can do it again. COVID didn't stop us last year, and it's not going to stop us this year. I want to thank each of you again so much for your financial support of the Senior Center. When I've run into you in the community, you've asked how our seniors are doing. You've asked how our staff is doing. And I can't tell you how much that means to us. It means to our folks. The funding you provide will continue to be used for general operating purposes to cover program expenses, staff salary, office expenses, and other general expenses. So we may continue to proceed forward this year with reopening and re-implementing programs. We're not asking for an increase this coming fiscal year. We just ask that you continue to fund us at the level you did this for this fiscal year. We are working closely with our volunteers, our board of directors, and staff to find new ways to raise funds for the Senior Center and the Shepherd Center. We've made budget adjustments. We're monitoring our expenses. Last year, we went from 5 full-time employees to 4 full-time employees. We've chosen to consolidate, eliminate, and redistribute our staff responsibilities and to cross-train our staff. From October of last year through March of this year, we did cut staff hours from 5 days a week to 4 days a week to economize. But beginning this week, we went back to 5 days a week. Your strong investment in our aging population will enable us to maintain as well as re-implement vital, free, and low-cost educational, health, wellness, enrichment activities in this community. We also ask that come June, you renew our lease agreement for the basement of the facility at 130 East Mountain Street. We truly appreciate all that the town of Kernersville has done for us in the past. We thank you for your support for our community and together as a whole community, and more so this past year, we are enriching the lives of the aging and disabled adults in the town of Kernersville. Thank you again. If you have any questions, please, I'll be happy to answer anything.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there any questions?
No question for me, but just I continue to be impressed with how all of the agencies that we support have really adjusted what they do and have really made a difference for the populations that they serve.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate all you've done for the Senior Center over the years, and this year was certainly full of challenges. And I appreciate the time you took, both as the director and as a volunteer, actually, in this year to help people in times of crisis. So you went above and beyond, and we really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we have been meeting for a little bit over an hour, so I think this may be a good time to take a quick break. So I'd like to take a 10-minute recess, but Mr. Hutchins, the Rusty, Yates, Renee, Mandy who've called in, should they just stay connected to this call or do they need to rejoin?
They can stay connected.
Okay, so please, everyone stay connected to this call, and we will take a 10-minute recess, which will put us back here at 8:19. Thank you. Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We are currently on agenda item 2C, the 2020 annual reports and 2021 budget requests. We are to item 4, a presentation by Next Step Ministries. I'd like to recognize Patty Sorrells.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Morgan and board for giving me this opportunity to speak with you all and to share Next Step Ministries with you. I want to also thank you for your ongoing support financially and otherwise. So I am Patty Sorrells, the Next Step Ministries Executive Director. I've been here for about a year and a half, maybe a year and 8 months. Of that time, 8 months into my tenure here, we went into COVID. So I've been working under COVID almost the entire time that I've been with Next Step Ministries, but it has also been a very good experience, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to share with you. Many of you are familiar with Next Step Ministries. We've been around for a while. Just to give a little bit of quick history, We were established in 1998, so we've been around for about 23 years now, and we were established by local businessmen, a pastor, and some town officials that felt it was necessary after one of Kernersville's very own citizens was shot and killed by her husband, and there were no services available to Kernersville. As you all know, there are shelters and victim services available in Greensboro and Winston-Salem, but those are often very hard to access from our location, and oftentimes your smaller towns and rural areas kind of get lifted out of the big picture with larger agencies. So they started out with very humble beginnings and put a mobile home on a piece of land, and we have now grown in size. We have developed a fully operational shelter with crisis lines and crisis intervention, and of course expanded our services this year with a victim advocate position solely dedicated to non-residential clients and a resource center. So let me talk about our mission. Our mission is to provide refuge, advocacy, education to survivors of domestic violence, and of course to the broader community. And if you'll go to the next slide, thank you. So with the help of our 15 to 17 staff, 75 volunteers, and 13 board members, we are able to fulfill our mission. With our 75 volunteers, we were logging this year 4,658 hours. That's down only because of COVID. And of course, we all know that people are very picky about coming out. So as things change, volunteers will start increasing again. I'd like to go over some of our services. I oftentimes have people ask us, what do we do? Most people are familiar with the fact that we have a shelter. And what do we do in that shelter? Well, this is for women and children who might have to flee a very dangerous situation. And they come to us a lot of times with the only thing on their backs. So we provide food, clothing, and transportation, resource and program referrals, and then case management for ongoing services to our shelter guests. Our 24/7 crisis line is housed in the shelter. If you'll go back to the former slide, I'm not ready to move. Thank you. Our advocates conduct a danger and safety assessment to determine if the people that want to come in are in imminent danger. We are not a homeless shelter, and we are not a transitional housing program. We are an emergency shelter for DV clients. So the crisis line then is our portal of entry to shelter and services and resource referrals, of course. We have victim advocacy, which the victim advocate position that I created here is outside of the shelter so that we can provide services to non-residential clients. Our victim advocate receives reports from criminal investigations out of Kernersville PD. We provide an initial assessment of needs. We do some DV education, and then we assist with clients navigating the judicial system and also attend court with victims so that there's somebody there that can kind of help them understand what's happening. We assist with 50B protective orders and filing for victims' compensation out of the state capitol in Raleigh. We provide all case management services to non-residential victims. And in victim advocacy, both in the shelter and outside of the shelter, we continue those services 30 to 60 to 90 days out. Our case management provides ongoing victim advocacy through goal setting, action planning, safety planning, DV education, of course, and then advocates on behalf of the client with other agencies in our county and in our state, which may include securing housing, financial assistance, counseling, job applications, and court assistance. Next slide, please. We have a resource center that we've developed where we are offering ongoing support groups, economic empowerment groups, educational workshops on DV, how to break the cycle of violence, and we certainly provide community education presentations through that resource center. We have continued to provide this under COVID, and we've done it virtually, and it has been very successful. So we're real pleased that we
just as others have been shared, we just had to kind of readjust and make sure that our services were ongoing. For us, we are considered essential workers, so it's not an option to stop doing what we do. In our community education, we provide educational presentations, workshops on domestic violence, and we participate in community events as a vendor and utilize our fundraising events as awareness opportunities as well. And then most everybody is familiar with our thrift store. It offers our clients an opportunity to shop for clothing and housewares that they may need to start over in their new home or in their next step. The thrift store provides 45% of Next Step Ministries' revenue stream, and the store sells used and gently used items that are affordable prices for the Kernersville community. I tell people all the time that they say, how can we help? Can we bring donations? You can, and we need those, and we're very thankful, but we also need you to shop. That's what helps our revenue stream. So how are we doing? I'm sorry. Yep, thank you. Going back to partnerships. So we are determined to both serve as a resource and an active partner in our community. And let me just say this, we cannot do what we do without partnerships. We are just one variable in the equation that provides the opportunity for DV victims to be successful in changing their life and setting a new path. So we're very proud of and thankful for our partnership with Kernersville Police Department. The Criminal Investigations Division is who we work most closely with, and that we receive reports from them and work with the clients that come our way through the police department. Also thankful for the chief who served on our board for a time, and just really appreciative of the relationship that we have with KPD. We also are working with the school resource officers that we hope in the fall we'll be able to start a program that reaches our youth and our parents on DV intervention and prevention. We're very thankful for our local churches who have invited us in to provide some community education and awareness. They also participate and provide fundraising for us, and we have recently put a package together that we've already done some training with security teams in our churches. That package and that program is available to any of the churches that just want their staff to be trained, who also might have preschool and daycare programs in their church. We are so thankful for Second Harvest Food Bank and Food Line and Sheets, who provide food donations on a weekly basis. Again, these are folks that we need to be able to provide food, and all of our services are free. Of course, we're involved with the Kernersville Chamber of Commerce and Rotary. Next slide, please. We work with agencies and organizations in the county, one of which is Continuum of Care in Forsyth County. This is a planning body to end homelessness in Forsyth County. And when COVID happened, there were probably about 30 of us that met every week at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays for at least 10 months during this time to make sure that we were providing the best services and working together to deal with COVID situations. So very thankful for that group. Family Justice Center of Forsyth County is considered the one-stop shopping for those who are needing assistance in navigating the judicial system. And that has actually developed as a further step from the Safe on 7 that we've had for a number of years. I've served on their services committee and on their spiritual care committee. Domestic Violence Community Council, Sexual Assault Response Team, that program, or that council has worked with numbers of agencies who might find themselves connected to or dealing with domestic violence. Some of those organizations, of course, are our sister shelters, but it's also daycare programs, children's programs, youth programs, churches, and organizations like Legal Aid and Safe on 7. We participate monthly with the neighborhood partnerships within our region of the North Carolina Council for Women, who is also our sole grantor. So we work very closely with our sister shelters and programs to assist when there is a need to transport people from one shelter to the other to make sure that women and children are safe and in a county where they might not be able to be found. We also have memorandums of understanding with World Relief of Triad, which is dealing with human trafficking. So we are certainly wading into those waters as well. We have a memorandum of understanding with Family Services of Forsyth County, Family Services of Davidson County, a cool program, which is the DVIP program in Winston-Salem, which is their abuser treatment program, and they keep us informed of information that we might need. We work with the Parenting Path for child care and child services, and then Goodwill of the Northwest North Carolina. Next slide. I'd like to take the time right now to do something that I think will be impactful, and I hope that will bring home to you what it is we do, and that's testimonials from Kernersville residents. On our crisis line call, we had a victim call who was badly beaten and injured, and our victim advocate was trying to assist her and helping her to determine if she wanted to call law enforcement or if she needed medical attention, and starting to assess her needs. At one point, the abuser broke into the home and started assaulting her while we were on the call. Our victim advocate dialed 911. Kernersville Police Department showed up, and just in time, she was being strangled. And so they were able to intervene, and she did not become a homicide victim in Kernersville because she called our crisis line, and our victim advocate knew exactly what to do and was well trained and involved law enforcement and got her to a safe place. And I think that's significant and huge to know that in our partnerships, but also what we do is that we were able to help someone and to save potentially a life. The second is what we do and what we have done with a non-residential client success story. This person came into our services seeking help, and in a 6-month time, she was able to get her 50B protective order. She went through our support group meetings. She went into the economic empowerment group and continued to do that over several months' time. And as a result, she was able to secure a job, secure a vehicle, secure housing, and she was able to actually increase her credit score by 90 points. It's the first time that she had financial freedom, and the first time that she, out of her statement, was that she felt safe and felt like she finally had her life back and had control of her life. So that's 2 examples of the services that we provide and how it changes people's lives based on their own testimony. So how do we stop DV? There's 2 things that we should do. Intervention is always a first and a must. That's your crisis line, your shelter, and your advocacy. But we're never going to stop domestic violence until we change the things that need to be changed in our culture and our community, and how we work with our partners to do some prevention. And that's going to be through community education and through our partnerships and through our community response teams. So how are we doing? Well, in COVID, we stayed the course. We are considered essential workers, and we did not close down our doors. We did not change our services. We have just stayed the course. We have met the goals set by our grantor, the North Carolina Council for Women, in safety planning, client satisfaction, and community engagement. Now, our community engagement was not what we wanted it to be, but it continued through our virtual services. And of course, that was simply because we could not go out and provide those educational presentations. And in our 2020 stats, our shelter, we had 104 guests. We assisted 76 non-residential clients. And a big part of that is due to the fact that we implemented that position for victim services outside of the shelter and worked with KPD. We've provided crisis intervention services for 1,478 individuals who called our crisis line. And of those numbers, we assisted 86 clients in Kernersville. So it's been very important for us to stay open and to make sure that our services continue, but we have also grown our services by adding that position, by adding the resource center, and finding ways to virtually meet the needs of community in Kernersville. Okay? And goals. Well, we always need goals, and I just am a visionary, so there are things that we want to do. One is that we certainly want to increase the community education opportunities. The only way that people are going to know how to make a change and how we can impact change and actually stop domestic violence is if we're out there educating people and providing awareness. We want to continue to develop our local MOUs. We have counseling agencies that we are in conversations with. We have child care groups that we're in conversations with, because all those things are necessary, and we can't provide them, nor do we have the funding to do that. We want to expand our services to include sexual assault advocacy. I've talked with some of the founders of Next Step Ministries. I've talked with KPD, and I've talked with our board about how this might be an opportunity to start expanding what we provide. We are required to do sexual assault training with our staff because sexual abuse is also part of domestic violence. So we are considering adding that other service to what we do. We'd like to develop and maintain a volunteer program that's a little bit different than just asking for volunteers. We are implementing a full volunteer training that is a professional training, and we're excited to think about what people who are wanting to make a difference. And it's not just about donations, though we want those, but it is actually about getting involved and impacting the lives of our clients. We want to develop and utilize outcome measurements that address the impact of change for clients. As you've seen, we've looked at safety planning, community engagement, and then client services. What we would like to know, and that's what we're working on, is how has it changed for them? And are they successful in leaving the abusive situation? And then how far out has it taken them to be able to do that? So we're working on our logic matrix to come up with and develop those outcome measurements. We want to continue to and increase our professional training of all staff. We have 5 members now who have gone through the North Carolina Victims Assistance Training Academy. I am also very proud to say that about 30 years ago, I was part of that. I started that committee, and I stayed on the committee, so we saw our very first training academy take place in Winston-Salem in 2003. So to have staff to get to go through that with nationally professional instructors has been just amazing and exciting. And my staff absolutely love getting that level of professional training. So we translate that to all of our staff. And then we would like to develop our own local community crisis response team for DV in Kernersville. We sit on the one in Forsyth County. It's mostly located in Winston-Salem. But we would like to work with our churches, our school systems, and our businesses and our daycares and all the people, mental health, social workers, to be at the table for our own community so that we're providing the best services that we can for Kernersville citizens. So we have a goal, we have a vision for what we would like to do to reach out to our own community and to grow those services. I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity. We're not asking for an increase. We're just so very thankful that you have supported us in the past. Hope that you're able to do that again this year. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and to share Next Step Ministries. And I'll take questions if you have any.
I have one question, Patty. I know we're in a long meeting, so we're probably not likely to ask as many questions. Your 104 guests that you had this year, and I know we've all been isolated, which might increase the tensions in families. How does that compare approximately with other years?
Well, so I'm so glad that you asked that question because we didn't necessarily decrease our numbers, but I will tell you that this would have been a year that we would have actually probably seen increase more than that. What we've had to do for the CDC guidelines and what we have done with the continuum of care to determine how many people should be in the shelter, we no longer could double up in our rooms. And so we really were limited in how many people could come into our shelter. That was for the safety of guests and, of course, for staff. So we didn't decrease drastically, we actually kind of maintained, and we were more from the previous year. I believe it was 71, but we really would have had much larger numbers than that. And do keep in mind that because this was such a situation where potential abusers were being laid off or working remotely from home, victims of domestic violence could not call us. They didn't have the freedom and the privacy to be able to call for help, nor could they leave. So we're seeing that as the guidelines are being lifted, and even from a national standpoint, that those numbers are probably going to increase once we are fully open for all the women and children who just couldn't get to us while under COVID. So it's been a very dangerous situation for them.
Okay, thank you, Peg.
Thank you for asking me.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Patty, for all your work, and to your volunteers as well. We appreciate the close working relationship you have with the Kernersville Police Department.
Thank you all for this evening. I appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, we are to item 5. So we're on the agenda 2C, item 5, Kernersville Little League. And at this time, I'll recognize Rusty Niles, president of the Kernersville Little League.
Thank you, Mayor and Board Aldermen. I'm just thrilled to be able to provide Little League baseball for our community again this year. We were able to have baseball somewhat last year, and Little League internationally canceled all the tournaments from last year for the first time ever since Little League had been doing it. So that was kind of heartbreaking for the kids last year. A lot of kids missed out on their final chance to do that tournaments. So this year, Little League has planned and is planning to host or to hold their all-star tournaments again this year in somewhat of a modified fashion. And we are once again the host site for the Southeast Regional Tournament for the Southeast region, consisting of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, West Virginia, and Virginia for the 13U kids. And with that being said, Little League has made a lot of changes due to the coronavirus and the housing of these children. As you may not remember, we're responsible for housing and feeding these 8 teams from across the Southeast region, which has up to 13 kids per team and 3 coaches and 8 umpires as well. The last time we did get to hold the tournament, they all stayed within the Kernersville limits in the motels and spent a lot of time in Kernersville, and really had a lot of good things to say about Kernersville and how nice of a town it was. The last tournament we did host in 2018 or 2019, the team from Alabama won the Southeast Regional Tournament and went on to become the Intermediate World Series champions as well. So that team actually was able to come through Kernersville on their way to winning the World Series championship. Little League, is, like I said, has made a lot of changes about the sorry, y'all. Made a lot of changes with the housing. It was in years past that they were able to have up to 4 kids per room to help with the cost of the housing. This year, it's down to 2 kids per room due to the coronavirus. So that's going to substantially make our housing bill a lot more. And and the meals were still about the same. It's hard. We're having a hard time this year with meals. It's kind of hard to ask restaurants to give us deals and free meals with everything that's been going on. We as a league just do not feel comfortable with going that route. So providing meals for these kids and the coaches is going to be another big jump for us. And as y'all are all aware that, we are a nonprofit, self-funded league, and we pay for all these things out of our own pockets. We have 11 board members that are all volunteers. Our whole organization is all volunteer based. And we've been fortunate to be able to continue to play baseball. This year we're sitting at 264 kids this spring, which our season starts April the 12th, Monday, April 12th. And we were able to have a somewhat of a season last year, with the coronavirus problem, and it was a great outlet for these young kids to be able to get out of the house that couldn't go to school. I think the parents were more appreciative of that last year than they've ever been. And it's been across the nation like that. I've talked to several leagues and districts and presidents, and they've all said about the same thing. Unfortunately, all our numbers are suffering because of this, because there's still people that are unsure of what to do. So with that being said, I really do appreciate and hope that y'all consider to help fund and help us with the Southeast Regional Tournament again this year. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Are there any questions at this time?
Okay, well, thank y'all for your time.
Thank you, Rusty. We appreciate your volunteering with this. It takes a lot of hours to run the Kernersville Little League. There's a lot of complexity involved in that, and it takes a lot of dedication to make it happen for the youth in our community. We appreciate you, your coaches, umpires, and the volunteers, definitely the parents and children who participate in the sport. So thank you for coming to the meeting, and thank you for making this happen even in difficult times for our community. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, we are to item 6, which is Sister City Association and Sister City Commission. And it looks like Russ Yates Thomas will present. Mr. Thomas?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, good evening. I'm Yates Thomas, and I'm here to report on activities of Sister City Commission and Association. As everyone knows, this has been an exceedingly difficult year for us all. Although in some regards we did have some successes, which I will discuss a bit later in detail, unfortunately we had to cancel all of our planned events, which caused revenue to drop significantly. Even as our income went down, our recurring expenditures remained pretty much the same as in previous years because we continued to support our community involvements. Our membership in Sister City International was renewed. We continued our sponsorship of Kerner's Follies Oktoberfest, made our annual educational grant to one of our local schools through the Chamber of Commerce's educational grant program. So that has caused our cash on hand to go down quite a bit. During the 2011-12 period, there was an economic downturn which caused the financial support provided by the town to nonprofits to be reduced. During better economic times since then, the support level was never returned to the previous level for Sister City. Even though we submitted our funding request for the upcoming fiscal year at the same level as the most recent years, we respectfully request that when the board discusses next year's budget, that you give some serious thought to increasing our grant back to the level of fiscal year 2010-11. The reason I make this suggestion is that our expenses will increase significantly as we carry out our plans in the upcoming year. Earlier, I mentioned that we did have some successes during the last year. The most important of those was making significant changes to our strategic plan and setting new, short, and long-term goals. To do that, we analyzed our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. One of the first changes we made was to adjust our thinking to be aligned with Sister City International's 3 pillars. Those pillars are friendships, business opportunities, and building communities. Once that was completed, we started working on setting goals. Friendships. We wish to solidify a second Sister City relationship, Suchitoto, El Salvador being our primary, Furtwagen, Germany is secondary. Pursue exchanges and partnerships. Professional exchanges, perhaps the fire department, cultural exchanges of artists, poets, and musicians, educational exchanges of teachers. We wish to initiate partnerships with organizations such as Global Ties, Rotary Clubs, Open World, Peace Corps alumni, AmeriCorps, and Fulbright. Please let me go off topic here for just a moment before I continue with the next pillar. I'd like to explain how we came about having a new candidate for a Sister City relationship and then why they were moved to the top of the priority list. There is a longtime hardworking Kernersville resident that is originally from Suchitoto. He's been remarkably successful here, living out the American dream. John Wolf and he have been friends for many years, and he kept inviting John to go to El Salvador with him to see his country, and in particular, his hometown. So finally, John and he took the trip a couple of years ago. While there, John got a firsthand look at the devastation and poverty brought about by over 20 years of civil war. All our board members thought this a wonderful opportunity to truly help a sister community in an impactful way. COVID permitting, we would like to go there this coming fall for our first visit. This meeting would be for a general introduction of Sister City concepts, along with data and needs information gathering, which will be used to formulate future efforts and exchanges. We believe that this distressed community could get invaluable insights on how a local government such as ours provides public services. Going back to the pillars, business opportunities. Capitalize on these opportunities in order of priority. Number 1 is host double 10 golf tournaments with Kernersville representation. This is absolutely key. To be successful, we must have participation by members of our local business community. Number 2, continue to offer a host site for the North Carolina Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce annual meetings. Number 3, identify and connect with key individuals and create an economic development team. Number 4, connect with TECO and the North Carolina Economic Partnership. And finally, building communities. Increase our overall membership and engagement by offering different membership levels. For personal and family membership benefits, that would be access to pre-sales of tickets, discounts, raffle entries, and publications. Corporate membership benefits would be automatic event sponsorships, board representation, and international internships. Other activities and benefits available for all members would be to attend Sister City International regional events and activities, connect and network with peer organizations, create an annual roster of programs and events. During the upcoming year, we hope that conditions will allow us to host a Taste of Taipei dinner, host the Double 10 golf tournament, sponsor and have an information booth at Oktoberfest, be the food provider for the beer garden during Spring Folly. If we're extremely fortunate, host the North Carolina Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce annual meeting, and travel to Suchitoto to solidify a new Sister City relationship. Thank you very much for your consideration. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Yates. Just so we're all clear, what is your request for this year? What's the dollar amount of it?
We would like to move it back to 3,000, which I believe is what it was prior to it being decreased a few years ago.
Okay, and that's not a one-time request. You would anticipate that would be an annual request.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Yates, this is Bruce Boyer. Furtwagen, Germany, is that a handshake relationship, or are we any closer to a formal relationship?
Yeah, it's still in a kind of a handshake situation. What happens is it seems that when they're ready to move forward, we have issues and we're not ready. And then when we get ready, then there's been a change in the Burgermeister or whatever, and then they're not ready. But the communication does continue.
And is Dashi still in your priority list, or?
Oh, absolutely. Most of the things I mentioned relate to them, such as the Number 10 tournament, the Taste of Taiwan, or Taipei rather, and also the most important thing is the annual meeting of the Chamber of Commerce that they have, because that gives us a lot of insight and opportunities to meet with some very influential folks in the business community there.
Okay, thank you.
I attended part of the meeting the last time it was held in Kernersville. Their location in Raleigh or in Cary had canceled unexpectedly, and Ernie Pages and Yates worked with them to get a Kernersville location. And so they actually ended up meeting in the new library, and they were very happy with that facility. Worked well for their presentations. And it was a busy weekend for Kernersville because it was the same weekend that we dedicated the new fire station. But there were business representatives, owners of businesses from the Raleigh-Cary area, from the Charlotte area, and members of TICO had come from Atlanta. So it was, and other places, I think, in North Carolina. So it was a pretty important gathering of bringing people to Kernersville.
And you know, another very important person that was there was the president of the North Carolina Economic Partnership. And he has offices in a number of places around the world that has their ear to the ground, listening for opportunities for either North Carolina businesses to create markets in China or other countries around the world, and also for businesses in other countries around that are looking for opportunities, perhaps start factories or distribution facilities in North Carolina. So wonderful opportunity to interface with those people.
Right, are there questions of Yates?
Mayor, I just want a clarification. I thought that you asked how much the request was for. Was it 3,000 or is it 2,100?
3,000.
Okay, because on the paperwork, unless there's an amended one, Keith, it says 2,100.
If that says 21, that was a typo. The request was 27.
Yeah, that's the only one that I have.
Okay, well, we probably want to get that corrected since it's a typo.
Yates, can you send me a corrected request?
I will do that.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on now to Kernersville Cares for Kids.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Good evening.
I thank you, Mayor Morgan, and members of the board for allowing me to meet with you this evening to speak to you about Kernersville Cares for Kids, an organization that is near and dear to my heart and to many people in Kernersville. Being a Kernersvillian and a member of the school system here, I appreciate what we have the opportunity to do. Kernersville Cares for Kids is a program that is an anti-drug, anti-alcohol, anti-tobacco program for our middle school and high school students in Kernersville. We service the 5 schools, 3 middle schools, 2 high schools here. And we provide educational opportunities, field trips, educational materials, opportunities to participate in some of the other organizations. At one point, they were able to participate in the no smoking program and kick butts and things such as that. We support those efforts. We also provide educational materials from the National Institute of Drug Abuse. They have a teen education program that we use their materials to provide content to our students, and we provide leadership lessons with the help of Life Tech in collaboration with them for the student leaders on a monthly basis. COVID took its turn on us as well. It was a rough year for our students and for our program. However, we did try to maintain and to provide as much assistance to our students as possible. We had meetings from from September through February. And then, of course, we were off campus at Life Tech. We were off campus with the Winston Forsyth County Schools. And so therefore it hindered us from being able to have our monthly meetings and our club meetings at the middle school and high school level. We did try to implement some virtual meetings. We did a couple of virtual meetings over the summer to try to keep our students engaged. We felt it was very important that the students stay engaged, especially in a time when they were separated from what was normal. Everything that they were used to. They were not unable to go to school. They were unable to be with their friends. They were stressed with the education being delivered in a format that was not familiar. Technology was an issue. Internet was an issue. So they went through a lot trying to adjust, and we wanted to be there for them. So we did try a couple of programs this summer, a couple of meetings, and we called them just a summer kickoff. Very little participation. However, the great thing that I found from that was that parents joined their kids on those meetings. We had parents there, and they were happy that we were offering that service to their kids, and they were able to ask questions of what we had to offer, and they actually learned something from the videos and things that we shared with the students. So that was impressive for me. We are still servicing approximately 2,000, 2,200 middle school students, I believe, and a little bit over 3,000 high school students in our program. We still have the support of the principals within the school system, and we have support of the school system, those people working in the community liaison area. We did not get to have our lunch and listen this past year, which hurt our fundraising activities. However, we did have a Facebook fundraiser that raised $465, just random as a birthday fundraiser, which I thought was pretty significant considering those don't usually go very far when you're doing little birthday fundraisers. And I felt that was an indication that people realize that we are important and that we make a difference. So, and they were not from the usual suspects. They were from people that were just ordinary citizens, individuals, not necessarily the business support that we normally get. So we were really pleased to be able to announce that we did have that going on. The town support, the money that the town had provided to us was used to support our coaches, and will be continued to use to support the coaches in the school system. They commit to giving us extra hours to work with our kids. They do, a lot of them do that either after school on their own time, and so we support them through a small stipend. We provide monies to the school, each school, to have resources to support their clubs, to support food for their clubs when they're meeting. And that is where the majority of our funds go. Without our lunch and listen We found ourselves in a deficit for the year, which was very significant, almost to the point of $8,500. We were very wise with what we had, but we still supported our school without having the additional fundraiser. We provided our scholarships to our high school students at East Forsyth and Glenn, and each of them have went on to college. And we enlisted the officers to help us with our summer initiatives, setting up an Instagram page and running the contest for the student members so that we could keep them engaged over the summer, which we provided 2 little small $25 gift cards, but it kept students engaged. We hope to resume our fundraising in the form of a modified event this year. We've talked about it as a board. The board has continued to meet even though the students have not. And we've discussed a way for the students to actually showcase to the community what they have learned about drug prevention, and to provide the content and provide a display and presentation for the community. So that is what we're working towards for the fall. We do still have the support of Forsyth Tech to provide our Global Leadership Experience Camp in the summer, and hopefully we'll be able to resume that in the upcoming summer. Not sure, depending on what COVID happens, but we do still have that support. We provided instruction through Junior Achievement, and that was supported by Forsyth Tech Foundation. They paid for the lesson for us to share with our students on financial literacy as well as career. Their career goals, It's My Future is the Junior Achievement name for that particular program. So those were things that we were able to do. I would like to take a minute, and I know this is a little bit beyond, it's late, but you never know where we're going to touch people. And I was talking to the executive assistant to the vice president, the executive assistant to the president of Forsyth Tech. And I said something about KCK. And guess what? She started in the middle school at KCK, and she is now a mother, a college graduate, and she works for Forsyth Tech. I had no idea until I started that conversation. So in an effort to be ready to relaunch when school starts, we are working with Forsyth Tech web development students, and they're producing a new website for Kernersville Cares for Kids, so we can start fresh, anew, and have fresh content for our students. So she took the time to write a letter of support that will be featured on our website. And it kind of shows her journey from starting at Kernersville Middle School and talking about why she started. She started out thinking she was just going to get pizza as a prize, and went on to talk about how her moral compass was focused in the right direction. She talked about the rat brain trip that we like to re-implement in the coming year. She talked about how that led her to look at healthcare as a career aspiration. Unfortunately, she found later on that it wasn't her thing, and she decided that she wanted to complete her degree in business administration, which led her to Forsyth Tech. And she said she recycled her inspiration to spark into a spark to work at Forsyth Technical Community College through helping other students. I hope to give the same aspiration or inspiration to my daughter. And I pray that she's able to take advantage of this awesome experience in the future. I ask that we keep Kernersville Cares for Kids active in the community. A kid like myself would never had an opportunity of that magnitude if it were not for KCK. So this is a letter that will be featured on our website. And I think there are several students that I've had the opportunity to work with that stay in touch with us now, asking for career and college, direction and support, and questions to help them make decisions about where they want to go. So with that being said, I want to say thank you for your past support, and I hope that you will consider to continue to support KCK. I certainly do, and I refuse to give up on KCK. So school wasn't there, but we kept trying and the board kept pushing forward. So we're planning to pick back up where we left off and keep going. So thank you again. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Hey, Miss Renee, it's Jenny Fulton. I just have a quick question. Can I get the website address?
It is not launched yet. I'm having a meeting. It's going to launch It's going to launch before the end of this semester. It's a class project for our web technology students. So it allowed us them to interact with the community. But I'm having a meeting with them actually this week, Thursday, so that we can review what's there to make sure it's ready to launch. And I'm happy to send it to you as soon as it's available.
I'd love to see it. I just was looking, you are connected to Winston Forsyth County Schools, and I see your Facebook page. Do y'all do anything with Crosby Scholars with Mona over there?
We do not. We have students who are part of Crosby Scholars, but we have not interacted with them. I do have connections with them. Never looked at it or explored it. There are several people that work in their, I guess, so their management that are very close to me that I could actually reach out to if there's an opportunity to work with them.
Well, I just want to offer my services. You know, my father-in-law is Paul Fulton, who started Crosby Scholars.
Okay,
so if you would like that introduction, I'll be more than happy to connect you because I do think it's hard times for all.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, are there any other questions?
Thank you all very much for your support. And I look forward to us working together again.
Renee, we appreciate your involvement in the board, the longstanding involvement of many of your board members.
Oh, yeah.
The support of the administration and the students, and especially your student board. They are the most energetic, go-getting kind of group, and we're very proud of them. So it's great you were able to continue the scholarships and that there's plans for engagement and with the community in the future. So thank you for carrying on. And I look forward to seeing their booth at the Spring Folly.
And we're planning on that as well. That's on our list of things to do. So thank you very much. I hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
And with the question about the funding request this year, I missed the opportunity to express my appreciation to the efforts of the Sister City and Sister City Association and Sister City Commission volunteers. So it's a lot of unique ideas and some new programs and ideas to consider. So we appreciate that presentation and the volunteering by members of the Sister City Association and Sister City Commission. All right, we are to item 8, which is the Kernersville Historic Preservation Society. It's on the agenda as Kernersville Historic Properties Commission, but this would be the Kernersville Historic Preservation Society. All right, so we have Mandy Cheek.
Yes, thank you for your time and attention. I am here to talk to you on behalf of the Kernersville Historic Preservation Society. I am the current president, and on behalf of the board, they wanted me to come before you and ask for help with funding this year. In case you don't know who we are or what we do, we are a small volunteer-only community service organization. We provide bi-monthly programming for our membership on historical topics that serve as social events and educational meetings. And during the pandemic, we've done that over Zoom, and we've done newsletters on the off months to stay in touch with our membership. We also oversee the one-room schoolhouse, the Piney Grove Schoolhouse at the 4th of July Park. And of course, we haven't been able to have it open monthly or anything like we typically do, but that is something that we oversee and provide programming for field trips and Leadership Kernersville and things like that. And the other big project that we oversee is the St. Paul's Historic African American Cemetery in Kernersville on South Main Street by the Stafford House. We took that over back in the early 2000s from Sarah Friend Hamlin, who had overseen its restoration. And since then, we have been responsible for its upkeep and periodic cleaning and things like that. And the request that we're making primarily has to do with St. Paul's Cemetery. In the past year, we have been able to have a lot of things donated, which is typically how our things are done, because all of our revenue typically just comes from our dues. So we just do things on a basis when we have funding, so as available type thing. But in the past year, we have been able to have a ground penetrating radar study done there. We had Withers Ravenel donate their time and equipment to doing that. We found 89 graves that were unmarked. We went to Marble Granite World, who were kind enough to donate granite for headstone markers there so that we could place something at each of the graves that we found. We have had an Eagle Scout, as part of their project, donate benches and a platform for trash cans towards the back of the cemetery. We have put a fence on a property line over where Cagney's is, because there was they were unknowingly like parking over towards where some of the unmarked graves were. And so we found a fence company and from our own monies put up a fence there. And they were kind enough to discount that for us. So there again, another donation. And that was from Holman Fence. They put that up. And we also, through a lot of donations and the graciousness of our volunteers and people that do make those donations, put HVAC in the schoolhouse, the one-room schoolhouse, so that some of the programming that we do isn't quite so miserable in the summer months and freezing in the winter months. So those are just some of the things that we've been able to do in recent times. And the monies that or the funding that we're asking for is, like I said, to be used in the cemetery. We have a stone pillar that runs between the fencing sections that is damaged and is falling. We have some headstones that are broken. We, through the director that is now overseeing the cemetery, Chris Gogler, she's developed a program called Families That Care Initiative, and she is getting people to sign up through business organizations or family and friends groups that can still come out and be socially distanced and masked and, in a safe situation, oversee they're volunteering their time to clean up the cemetery on a monthly basis. So it's in really good shape right now. She's also personally put in a lot of her time. The town historically has been great coming out when we organize the days on a less frequent basis to donate their time. I know Ernie Pages has come out before and helped us move leaves and things. But now that we have a more regular schedule for that cleanup, we would like to actually purchase some leaf blowers so our volunteers can use those and be more effective when they go out. And we typically do have one group a month going out now. And we would also like to put some gravel down in the driveway where there's some erosion going on. So those are the things that we're requesting funding for. And I mean, you guys clearly have a lot going on with the pandemic, and we appreciate any help we can get with that. And I will keep it short. I think I have said just about everything I had to say. Please let me know if you have any questions about that.
Are there any questions?
No. All right. In that case, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mandy, for your presentation, for taking the leadership role of this great organization. I was honored to meet Sarah Friend Hamlin as she was raising awareness for the cemetery restoration, sitting in the Kernersville in the kitchen area one day when she first started really raising awareness. It's a jewel in our community and on local historic tours as an important historic location. So appreciate your help and the Boy Scouts and all the volunteers that have really helped to raise awareness of the history of the cemetery and improve its condition. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, we are bringing more people in that are using that as a tourist site, and we've been featured in some local media and even Channel 8. So yeah, again, thank you.
Thank you. All right. This
Madam Mayor,
concludes.
could I say one thing
Absolutely,
about
Joe.
the cemetery? It's such a unique site right in the center of Kernersville. And the thing about that cemetery, it's a pre-Civil War cemetery, and probably 95% of the people that drive by it don't even know it's there. It's tucked in the woods between the Stafford House and Cagney's. And the Historic Preservation Group has done so much work to clean it up. It was a jungle. It was hard to even walk through it. And now we've located graves that we didn't even know were there, and put headstones down. So if you ever have time, take a walk through that cemetery, and you'll feel peaceful when you get through with your walk, because it's so quiet. You get in those trees, and the street is only 50 feet away, but you can't even hear the cars. It's a wonderful asset to Kernersville.
And I'll make another comment, Mandy. Someone posted on Facebook back when you had identified the grave sites and wanted people to place the stones in, and that was brilliant. You know, that was something that people could do. And my wife and I went out during the heart of the pandemic, and we were the only ones there, and we could use that the safety of that to actually clear the space around and place those stones in. So using Facebook, I think that's how we spotted it. That was a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything further on any of the nonprofits? All right, we'll move on we'll do items D, E, F, G, and H, and then I'll call another brief recess if that suits everyone. All right, these are all public hearing items. The public hearings were held on March 2nd, 2021. I asked at the briefing of our town clerk, had we received any public comments subsequent to the public hearing being closed? And he replied that there had been none. But let me just, for on the record for our regular meeting, Keith, have you received any public comments on the items D, E, F, G, or H?
No, Madam Mayor, I have not. But you may want to be aware that Mayor Pro Tem Fulton just stepped out of the room. I don't know if you want to pause the meeting for a moment. Here she is. Now she's back. Thank you.
All right, so item D was consideration of an ordinance for a proposed zoning text amendment to the UDO, zoning docket KT 246. We already have had the public hearing on this, so the only matter before the board is a vote. Do I have a motion, or is there further discussion or questions?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Motion for approval by Alderman Bruce Boyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman, is that Chris?
Yes.
Alderman Chris Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, we're voting on item D, zoning docket KT 4246.
Yes, ma'am. In favor. Thank you.
Alderman Boyer.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
In favor. Thank you.
Alderman Cruz.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is item E. Again, the public hearing has already been held. It's consideration of an ordinance for a proposed zoning text amendment to the UDO, zoning docket KT 248. If anyone who's watching is curious, we already approved zoning docket KT 247 at a prior meeting. So there's not a typo. That is actually the next one. So this is item E, zoning docket KT 248. Is there a discussion or do I have a motion?
I'll be glad to make the motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Boyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Chris Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is agenda item 2F, zoning docket KT 249. Is there further discussion or do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I've read all these. I'll be glad to make the motion again to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Bruce. Chris, was that a second?
Yes. Second. Thank you.
Yes, second by Chris Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. The next is item 2G, consideration of an ordinance for a proposed zoning text amendment to the UDO, zoning docket KT 250. Is there further discussion or do I have a motion?
Glad to make the motion again. In favor.
All right. I have a motion to approve by Alderman Boyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are to item 2H, consideration of an ordinance for proposed zoning text amendment to the UDO, zoning docket KT 251. Is there further discussion or do I have a motion?
I'll be glad to make the motion one more time. In favor.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Boyer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. After our break, we will be to item I, consideration of an ordinance amending traffic schedule 4 of chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances to add Cedar Knoll Drive to the list of streets titled No Parking Anytime. But this seems to be a good place to take a break. So how about we've got another hour and 10 minutes since the last break. I have the time as 9:31. How about we reconvene at 9:41? All right, welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We are on item I, consideration of an ordinance amending traffic schedule 4 of chapter 9 of the Code of Ordinances to add Cedar Knoll Drive, both sides of the street, to the list of streets titled No Parking Anytime. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, you have the ordinance in your packet. As it says, this is on Cedar Knoll Drive. This is the street behind the new Farm Bureau Insurance Office. There's been parking there and it's becoming a problem. So we've been asked to consider that as no parking on both sides of the street. Staff recommends it and we do not have any problem with that.
Are there questions or further discussion?
That's right next to the Dollar General also.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
correct? Yeah, that's a street that is a stub street. There's no, it's sort of a dead end street. A truck that parks there, they couldn't turn around very well at all.
That's correct. And that has been part of the problem is they'll pull in not knowing that. And then they're kind of stuck.
And the Dollar General parking lot isn't all that big for a truck to maneuver. I'll be glad to make a motion to approve of this ordinance.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Boyer. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Alderman Joe Penix. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyer.
Definitely in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Penix.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item J, consideration of an ordinance regarding the parking of food trucks in certain locations.
Madam Mayor, this was, we were requested to look into the possibility of doing this. As you know, there are now several breweries downtown and they host events and they have large crowds as well on the weekends and some days during the week. And also we've seen from time to time throughout the year that one of the businesses downtown may have a special event or sidewalk sale or something like that. And so technically by our current ordinance, a food truck is not permitted to park in one of the marked parking spaces and sell food off the food truck. So, you know, with the downtown becoming more vibrant, now that COVID, we're not through it, but we're starting to see more people downtown and more businesses downtown that utilize food trucks. We are recommending that we allow food trucks to park in one marked space in front of the business that is hosting them Monday through Sunday from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. so that they can sell food off that food truck. Again, they have to be hosted by a business. They just can't go downtown and park. The business there normally would be having some type of special event or something like that and would have a food truck in. So we're recommending that. We think it will work out well for those businesses that are doing that and having special events, and for the breweries that are downtown that also utilize food trucks to serve food to their customers.
Okay, is there anyone in the courtroom or who wanted to speak on this?
No, ma'am.
Do we have any cards turned in for any of the items remaining on the agenda?
No, ma'am. There's no one in the courtroom that has been here that signed up to speak.
Okay. Adam, is there anyone who's called in who signed up to speak?
No, ma'am. We haven't received any calls this evening.
Okay. All right. If there is someone who comes in and fills out a speaker card, or someone who calls in on an agenda item, if you could let me know so we can be sure they can be heard.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
In the interest of time, that'll help us move a little faster, but we still want to hear from anyone who calls or comes in.
A question for Curtis. In an event like Spring Folly, could a food truck be parked there on the street, or how would a special event like that relate to this?
Not with the Spring Folly. We have an ordinance, the Spring Folly ordinance that allows the chamber to regulate that. So it would, at that time, it would fall under that ordinance, and they would, if they parked on the street, they would have to go through the chamber to do that because of the Spring Folly ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question. How does this relate to the trucks that are not food trucks, but they might be coffee trucks? Because I know I've seen several of those around town through the years. Clearly, that might not be in that time frame you're talking about. I don't know that a business is going to host it because I've seen them in parking lots. I've seen them in various locations. So how do you distinguish between the two?
If they're hosted by, hosted there by that, by the business, then they could park there. Right now, they can currently park on private property just like any food truck can. So they would fall under that as well, from that 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. time frame, because most of those, I think the ice cream trucks might be a little different, but most of those are considered in the food truck category.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question, Curtis. I know we talked about, spring falling, but what if like Oktoberfest or the 150th celebration for the town and they wanted to bring in food trucks? Do they need to get with you, get with whoever's organizing the event? Is that an exception or?
They would not be able to come and just park downtown during any event unless one of the businesses there, the business in front of that space, is hosting them. So if we had the 150th celebration and someone wanted to come park downtown with a food truck, they just couldn't pull up and park unless like KBC was hosting them out there. They would then need to get with KBC to park out front and utilize that space. And again, it's only from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m.
I was going to say, so that wouldn't be a day event.
No, it wouldn't. This is only good from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday in front of the business that is hosting them. So,
or behind it, right?
And this right now with the ordinance, or right now with the exemption we have in effect, as long as the governor's order is in effect, they can park behind it on town, right away. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there further questions? Do I have a motion? Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion? It can be to deny it if you are not interested in having this.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. I have a motion from Alderman Kenny Cruz to approve this ordinance. Do I have a second? The motion fails for lack of a second. Do I have a motion to deny it?
And Mayor, you need not have that motion to deny.
Okay.
Not get a second. It's a moot point at this time. The ordinance is just not granted, not allowed, not put into place.
Okay. Thank you, John. All right, if there's nothing further on item J, we'll move on to item K, consideration of an agreement with Beeson's Crossroads Volunteer Fire Department.
Madam Mayor, you have the agreement in your packet. And Jeff, I think, is going to show some pictures of it. As you know, this is an agreement that we've been working on for some time with Beeson's Crossroads Volunteer Fire Department to co-locate in their station. For us to locate in that station would require some renovations to the station. We even need to make the station larger, also add a bigger parking lot and so forth. We have worked through that. Beeson's has worked with an architect to design that station. And we are now to the point where we came to an agreement with Beeson's, also with Forsyth County, and Beeson's has approved the agreement, so it is coming to you tonight for approval or denial as well. I'll just highlight some of the points of the agreement. The term of the agreement is basically for the term of the loan. So Beeson's will own the station. Once the loan is paid off, the town of Kernersville will then own the station. If the town pays off the loan early, the full agreement will remain in effect. So if it's, say, a 20-year term on the loan, we pay it off after 15 years. It will still have 5 more years on that agreement. It's also in there that if Beeson ceases to operate, at that point, they will assign their contract they have with the county to provide service to us, and then we will take over the station and take over the property in the station and assume the debt on that property. that they may have. And we will also at the time negotiate with the county for a portion of the revenue from the fire tax in that district. That's what this does is, as I've talked to you all before, that's what this does. The town currently has land for Station 44 down off Tig Lane at the intersection of Tig Lane and Hitchcock Road. We would sell that property if this agreement goes through. If this agreement does not go through, at some point in time, we will have to build a new Station 44 on Tig Lane, and we will also have to build a new station on South Main Street. We will not need the station on South Main Street or the station on Tig Lane if this agreement passes. The other part to that is, we can transfer our firefighters from the current Station 44 to the new station here at Beeson's Crossroads. If we have to build a new Station 44 and a new station on South Main Street, that would necessitate at least 9 new firefighters to be housed at the new station on South Main Street. So you're looking at a recurring cost there somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000 a year for the staff. The cost of this station is $3.1 million. Beeson's will get the loan and construct the building, and the town will guarantee the payment on that building for the length of the loan. We will work with Beeson's to get that loan so that it can be obtained at the best term and best rate possible to benefit both parties. As I said before, we feel that this is a good agreement for both the town and for Beeson's. We currently provide mutual aid for their calls. They currently provide mutual aid for our calls. We will continue to do that. If and when we go into the station, we will assist them on their calls and they will assist us on ours. So, it's it's a good agreement and kind of a good partnership for both parties involved. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have regarding the agreement. And you can see a picture of it. Jeff had it up. That's the artist rendering of that. Adding another bay and some more sleeping quarters, as well as some more office space in there as well. And the parking lot over on the side of the building, if you're facing it, over on the left side of the building. We have worked with DOT. I forgot to mention, we have worked with DOT. They will donate the vacant property between the fire station and Union Cross Road. They will donate that to the town so that it can be used as well if we need more parking and so forth.
It'd be nice to put some nice landscaping there too.
Yes, ma'am.
To improve the appearance of that corridor.
I agree.
I just have a couple quick questions, Mayor, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Forsyth County, so do we know how long the loan's going to be?
We do not know.
Are we anticipating a 20-year or 15? Any idea?
From what we've seen lately with loans and quotes on loans, I would anticipate something between 15 and 25.
Okay. The other question is, 1.9, it says Forsyth County as a beneficiary of this agreement, but I didn't see anywhere for Forsyth County to sign off on this agreement. Will they have to after we approve it or deny it?
They will, yes.
I just didn't see the location for their signatures.
I don't see theirs, but they have. We've worked with the county, and they've actually sent back changes to the agreement, so they're fine with that. And they may not require to sign. They may not request to sign off on it, but they're in agreement with it.
Well, there's a new person in charge in Forsyth County, so I just wanted to, Darren Ziegler.
He's not in charge of this agreement.
Well, I thought he's over all the volunteer fire department.
This will come to the county manager.
Just county. Okay. So then if I'm reading this right, like if Beeson ceases to provide fire service and Forsyth County says it's okay for the town to take over, then we take over all property and debt and everything. If they say, no, we don't want Kernersville to provide, then does everything go back to Forsyth County?
No, ma'am. If they cease to provide and they're not there, the building comes to us. That's in the agreement.
Well, that's why I was a little confused because 1.9 says Forsyth County is the beneficiary of this agreement. And she'll have standing to enforce this agreement, but not limited to. But if I go back and I read that Forsyth County says they're going to provide the fire service, I just want to make sure we're totally protected.
We are, and what they enforce in the agreement is that they can come in and enforce all provisions of the agreement. But it says that in the event that Beeson ceases to provide, and if the town does not provide fire services, then it goes to them. But
well, that was my question, because is that in 1.8 where you're talking about? Because that's the 1.7 says they cease to provide it, and then it shall be assigned to Forsyth County's consent to the town. But 1.8 says it could go to Forsyth County.
Basically, 1.8 saying that 1.9 is saying basically the county can pretty much make us provide service in that area. But shall we refuse and whatnot, then it all goes back to the county. Because it is currently a county, it's within being a volunteer service, that's how it works. Is when the volunteer stations close up, it goes to the county. But 1.7 and 1.8, if they cease to provide fire service, then it comes to us. If we decide not to do that, then it will go to the county. But
okay,
they can.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Curtis.
I'm done.
The only other question I have, I know it's more an advantage for the town to help with the loan, but are we going to be on that loan document, or is that just going to be Beeson responsible for that debt?
Right now, we probably will not be a co-signer on the loan, because we think that if we're a co-signer, an actual co-signer on the loan, we would probably have to go through the LGC. But we think we will work with the lending institution as well with this agreement that shows, hey, we're pretty much guaranteeing you payment. Every year, whatever their payment is, we just turn around and reimburse them. So, and there's even a provision in there that we would make payments directly to the lender. So
I saw that. And so that would be on the 3.1 million. I guess once you figure out the terms of the loan, you'll be able to provide us with the amount.
Yes, ma'am.
Yearly. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you, Curtis. And I think this is a great agreement, and Beeson is excited. And so that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions of Curtis? And remember, Chief Aldermen and Deputy Chief Bowles are also available. I'd like to thank everyone for their hard work at bringing this to this point. Curtis and John, Ed, no doubt you've been involved in it. Deputy Chief Bowles and Chief Alderman, appreciate everybody's time and effort to bring this agreement to the board tonight. All right, board. Any more comments, questions, discussion? Or do I have a motion?
I've always been in support of the concept because I think it's very cost effective for the town of Kernersville. So I will be glad to make a motion to approve of the agreement.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Bruce Boyer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor. Thank you.
Joe.
Alderman Penix?
Joe.
We're on item K, consideration of an agreement with Beeson's Crossroads Volunteer Fire Department. I've got a motion by Bruce and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Alderman Penix, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item L is consideration of a contract for Phase 1 of the Kerner Mill Greenway. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, we are finally to the point where we're going to start the infamous Greenway if you all approve it. I went back and looked today, and the study for the Greenway was approved in June of 2009. So almost 12 years ago. and the master plan was approved in November of 2010. So it's been a while, but we have reached the point now. You see in your packet that we have put it out to bid, and we're recommending awarding the contract to Smith Rowe Incorporated in the amount of $1,610,592.38. There's also $712,000 for professional services on top of that, bringing it to about $2.3 million. We still have managed to keep it close to what we anticipated our cost or our portion would be. We are anticipating receiving almost $1.9 million in funding from DOT and also some funding from CCUC for the demolition of the wastewater treatment plants. So our portion, I think, initially was somewhere around $400,000, and we're now looking at our portion being about probably $560,000, which is not bad considering it's been 10 years and the cost of construction has went up during that time period. So we got the last grant from DOT. Alderman Fulton represented the town on that at the TAC meeting probably a year ago, and we were awarded some more money to help with the professional services aspect of the Greenway. So we're recommending moving forward with the Greenway. As I mentioned at the briefing, we will have to put the money up front to build the Greenway, and then we will be reimbursed from DOT. So if this is approved, you will see the budget amendment later on to transfer that money out of the general fund over into the Greenway fund for construction of the Greenway. Once we're done, we will submit the documents to DOT for reimbursement. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. But it's finally here. The board decides to move forward.
I have no questions, but I would happily make a motion to approve this. It's been a long time coming. I'm glad to see some finality to it and get started.
Motion by Alderman Thompson, second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Alderman Boyer.
In favor. Thank you.
Alderman Penix.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are to, well, let me ask. Curtis, when will they start?
You have asked me a question I do not know, but hopefully this summer.
It should be
around June or July. Dawn may be able to tell you.
June or July? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good. When will they finish?
It's a 1.5-year project. So.
Okay. Fantastic. Good news. Thank you. I know you worked on it for a long time too, and Jeff Hatling as well. So appreciate everyone's efforts. And John, certainly. John worked on this a lot. You know, Curtis, it took 12 years, but the plan's better now.
Oh, yeah. It's a good project.
It is a good project. We'll use it for 50 or 100.
I hope so. I hope I can use it for 50 more.
might have to re-gravel it after.
In 50 years, I'll probably be over there in Joe's graveyard.
I'm just glad that hopefully you're going to approve this within my lifetime.
We just did.
I meant to start construction. I began to wonder, I'll tell you.
Okay, so that one passed unanimously. Agenda item L passed unanimously. Starting in June or July, and construction continuing for 18 months. We are now to the rec center. So we've got agenda items M, N, and O that are all related to the design and construction plans, the resolution for a notice of intent to reimburse for capital improvements, and the ordinance establishing a capital project fund. We'll vote on them separately, but Curtis, do you want to start, or is this for Ernie to present?
I'll start, and then if I leave anything out or if you have any questions, Ernie or I, either one, will be glad to answer them. Ernie put out the request for qualifications for an architect to design the building. He went through those and selected CPL, Architecture, Engineering, and Planning team. They're the same team that came in and did the pre-design and rendering of what the building would look like. You have in your packet their proposal fee, as well as their contract. There is one part of the contract that we will change, but overall the contract refers to this proposal Exhibit A, which is what I will cover. And we're looking at the design phase of, as I mentioned before, we can't even, really begin to go out and get loans or obtain funding, and really probably not even take advantage of, most likely, the some of the stimulus money that's there. We may be able to, but it's definitely easier if we have a design to do that. So you see in your packet, about probably middle ways through the information there, the design phases. The one that we would initially do is the top design phase, where we have the schematic design, the design development, construction manager at risk, procurement, construction documentation, acoustics consulting, that has a subtotal with it. And then you have the civil engineering and landscape and the topographic survey. That comes to $635,000. That is the first one that we would do. If we're fortunate enough to be able to work it into the budget, have the board approve it, and move forward with it, at that time you would have the construction and procurement phases part of that. But right now, we're asking that you approve basically the proposal in Exhibit A and the contract. I'll let John explain the portion of the contract that will change. But approval of Exhibit A and the contract to move forward. I would recommend taking that money from the capital project fund that will be set up later. We're recommending transferring the money from the sale of the tower lease, as well as the reimbursement from an employee, over to that fund. It will have roughly $1.4 million in it. So we could take the $635,000 out of that. And then if we move forward with the construction of the building, of course, we could reimburse ourselves the $635,000 from loan proceeds. So we are recommending that. You have seen the design of the building. I think most of you were involved in the process and the focus groups and so forth. Same firm that did that will be doing all of the architectural work and everything else. If this passes, Ernie will then move forward with putting out an RFQ for the construction manager at risk firm. We will then select one, and they will work with the architect on designing the building, getting a cost for the building, so that at some point we can move forward with the next phase of the project. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. I will let John briefly explain the change in the contract. It has to do with the arbitration in that.
As the board will, I think, recall, because I've done it for 40 years, and that is recommended to the board that any contract that is signed not have an arbitration clause in it. Arbitration is in the standard form of the agreement between the owner and architect. And so I would ask that you approve, subject to council's further review of the document. And I think that it's probably okay. It is a standard form, and I've been over these before, and I think everything will be fine in it, with the exception of the omittance of 8.3 arbitration. And so any motion, if you would make it subject to that, I would appreciate it.
Could you speak out so Keith can get it in the records exactly what you'd like the motion to be, John?
The motion for approval would be conditioned upon complete review by legal counsel and striking paragraph 8.3 regarding arbitration.
And just a clarifying question, would then the agreement come back to us for a final vote? Or if that paragraph is struck and you're okay with it, then it would go into effect?
Yes, ma'am. That would be the case. I see no need for it to come back to you unless you want it to come back to you, but we've never done that before. Whenever there's been something that I have interjected or have wanted to have final approval from the legal standpoint, the board has gone ahead and passed a motion in favor, subject to review by council, and in this case, striking a paragraph.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify so that we would all be on the same page on that. And that Curtis would be able to go ahead and proceed, and Ernie go ahead and proceed with everything to get the shovel ready.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about item M, the consideration of a proposal for design and construction plans for the Recreation and Event Center. Is there any further questions, or would someone like to make the motion that John Wolf has recommended, or an alternative motion?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
When I look at Exhibit A, under Project Understanding, it spells it out. It's a 56,000 square foot building. I just want to make sure that the stage for the little theaters in there, and that we are going to be able to have a maximum meeting space, because it is considered the Kernersville Community Center, and that's just not listed out there. It was in the original design that we had talked about, but they spelled out the basketball, they spelled out locker rooms, but they didn't spell out the stage for the Kernersville Little Theater, and I think want to make sure that all that's included.
Yes, ma'am, the stage is included in there, and the 3 basketball courts or what makes up the large meeting area. They're designed in a way that they can be all one big open space. And I think, and Ernie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it will seat 1,000 without tables. Is that correct? 800 to 1,000 without tables.
We're looking at 1,000 without tables and up to 600 with tables. And the stage will be included in all of that. So basically the conceptual plan that you saw is what's going towards design and architectural renderings.
Okay, it just wasn't spelled out, so I want to double check that. And the only other question I have is, looking at this agreement, we're hiring the architect, engineering, planning, but if I look at like 11 or 1.19, 1.111, looks like there are there's another engineering and there's another civil engineer included. Are they all working together? And I see them listed on Exhibit A
yes,
as part of it. And I'm sorry if I'm not a architect, so I just want to make sure I understand.
When it all comes down together, there you have one firm that does mechanical and interior, and then you have one firm that'll do topographical land and landscaping. And then pretty soon you'll have a construction manager at risk who'll come in on top of that, and basically they'll counter check the design versus what's actually going off in real time. So you kind of cut out all of your space and change orders up front before you go into construction. So you have a team of different engineers and contractors working together on the project.
But it'll all go under the CPL umbrella, I guess.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I have to create a visual for me, so thank you.
Yes.
That's all I have. And I agree with Mr. Wolf. I like him reviewing the contract before it's signed. I'll make that motion. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. And this is for agenda item M. Do I have a second?
I'll second, and that motion would be to the approval of M with stipulations of John's added motion.
Yes, the arbitration provision and his further review.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you need Keith to read it back?
No, I just want to make sure that's included.
Yes. Keith, have you got
Madam
that?
Mayor, do we want to have Mayor Pro Tem Fulton confirm that that amends her motion?
That's correct.
That's not an amendment. That's what John Wolf had said.
Right,
So
or
why-
maybe I should say clarify, yes.
Yeah, that's
for
all in the motion I said,
Thank you.
you know, per John Wolf. I agree with that. And I want
I want to
that
be
in the
100% sure that Keith has the motion that we believe we're voting on. So Keith, if you could read back John's proposed motion, that was the motion that Mayor Pro Tem Fulton has made.
Madam Mayor, his proposed motion is that the proposal be approved, being conditioned on complete review by legal counsel and striking paragraph 8.3 regarding arbitration.
And that's correct from my standpoint.
So that Mayor Pro Tem Fulton made a motion to approve the proposal for design and construction plans for the Recreation and Event Center, and then what you just said. Correct, John?
Yes, ma'am. That way Ed or I can get through it and just make sure everything is all right. I think it is, but I just want that opportunity.
Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, is that your motion?
Yes, ma'am, it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson, is that your second?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. And Ernie, thank you for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Alderman Boyer?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are to N, also related to the Recreation and Event Center. It's the consideration of a resolution for a notice of intent to reimburse for capital improvements of the Recreation and Event Center. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Joe Penix. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are to item O, which is consideration of an ordinance establishing a capital project fund for the Recreation and Event Center. Is there a motion?
Motion in favor, please.
Okay, motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Alderman Joe Penix. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are to item P, consideration of an ordinance for budget amendment number 6 for fiscal year 2020 to 2021.
Madam Mayor, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest portion of this budget amendment deals with the Greenway, but there are a few other items in here. The first one is to increase the street department $753,000 to cover street repairs and repaving costs. $310,000 of that is the demolition of the wastewater treatment plant on Beeson Road. We will also repair Beeson Road. And then $443,000, as I told the board at the briefing, we have gotten approval from CCUC to go in and repave the streets where they are doing the work, running the pipe. They're currently patching those areas, and it does not come out all that great when they patch them. So we're going to go in and use some of the money from our water and sewer fund to pave those streets in full so that they're not patched. So that $753,000 has an offsetting revenue. We do have two expenses that do not have an offsetting revenue. The second one there, the $60,000 to cover an increase in landfill tipping fees. And the other one without an offsetting revenue is we're having to transfer some money from the general fund to the occupancy tax fund. As you can imagine, COVID, our occupancy tax was a little bit lower than what we anticipated. Not much, $38,000. So we'll be transferring some over and hope that that will cover it all. And then the Greenway there, number 3 in the Greenway, it's $2.366 million. Again, $1.78 million of that we will be reimbursed once the project is done. So you see at the bottom, general fund revenues is to increase the fund balance appropriated to $2.464 million. Most of that, again, will come back. So the true appropriation out of the fund balance in the end will be our portion of the Greenway, and then the $38,000 and the $60,000 for tipping fees. There are some other ones in their own fund, but those are inter-fund transfers that really do not impact the general fund. Be glad to answer any questions the board might have on any of those.
Okay, are there any questions?
No. Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. And Doran and Curtis, to your point of the Utilities Commission not making really good repairs, for the first time on the way to this meeting tonight, it looked like there was a chunk of pavement missing around a manhole cover that is right where the buses exit at Kernersville Middle School.
We will look into that tomorrow and notify them.
It might be an issue.
Thank you. Yeah, I have not seen it, so thank you for letting us know.
I think it just happened.
Okay.
All right. We are to item Q. I have to get a earpiece. All the echoing.
Do what?
I have to get an earpiece with all the echoing.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting echoing back from.
I don't know. We were doing so well. That seems better. Thank you, Adam. All right. We have item Q, consideration of a proposal for financial auditing services.
Our contract with our current auditor, Dixon Hughes Goodman, has expired, and we need to renew. To renew a contract, we obtained a proposal from Dixon Hughes Goodman for auditing services for the town for fiscal years ending June 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2025. You have the price of that those services there in front of you. We have used Dixon Hughes Goodman for several years now. They provide very good service to the town. They provide good guidance on what we need to do differently, what we're doing correctly, what we could do better, and so forth. And also, unlike several firms that provide the service, they send in different project managers basically every couple of years or every year, just depending. We have different project managers and different auditors come in to do the audit, which really puts a good fresh set of eyes on it every year or so to provide those recommendations and to review our finances. So we've been satisfied with their service and what they provided the town, and we're recommending the board approving this contract from June 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2025. And as you all are aware, you have to approve that, you do the 5-year contract, and then we bring it to you also every year for that. But be glad to answer any questions. Franz Ader is also on the line. He can answer any questions about their services as well.
Are there any questions?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All right. I have a motion by Alderman Thompson, a second from Alderman Boyer. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are to R&S, consideration of a resolution for a grant application for transit services for seniors and individuals with disabilities. And agenda item S, consideration of a contract for transit services for seniors and individuals with disabilities.
Madam Mayor, item R is the grant application that goes through the Winston-Salem Urban Metropolitan Planning Organization. They administer that grant. It's an 80-20 grant. We pay 20% of it. They provide 80% of the funding. We've had this grant for several years now. It is a pretty popular service during non-COVID times and still had some ridership during COVID times. But it provides a service for that segment of the population that needs it. We have changed up the routes throughout the years to try and increase our ridership and try to hit the areas where folks contact us and would like to see that. So we're recommending that the board apply for this grant application through the MPO. And then I'll go ahead on to S. We've received bids from 2 agencies to provide those services. In the past, we've used Archangel's Transit. This year, we also received a proposal from Anchor Mobility, and we are recommending going with Anchor Mobility to provide those services this year. So that's kind of both of them wrapped into one. It's basically one item, but it's 2 separate items since one of them is actually the grant application through the MPO, and then the other one is for the contract to provide the actual services. So be glad to answer any questions that you may have on either one of those.
Are there any questions? Okay, do I have a motion on agenda item R, which is the grant application?
So moved.
Okay, motion to approve by Alderman Thompson, second by Alderman Fulton. I've got a motion by Alderman Thompson, and I have a second by Alderman Fulton. Joe, you came in a little bit after Jenny's.
That's fine.
All right. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyer.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Penix.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we are to S. That's the consideration of the contract. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyer.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Penix.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we are to items T and U. Item T is consideration of returning to in-person meetings for the Board of Aldermen. We would start with the April 28th briefing meeting and hold it in the courtroom. The May 4th regular meeting also held in the courtroom. As discussed at the briefing meeting, our town staff can organize an overflow room, and we'll still have a screening as people enter in accordance with the recommendations of the CDC and the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services and the governor's office. So, Mr. Swisher, do you have any additional information on that as well?
No, ma'am. Not really, other than what we discussed last month. We have 4 of the board members in the courtroom tonight, as well as Mr. Powell, Mr. Hooker, and myself. So we can, we actually measured today, we can get probably 5 board members there at the table where you all normally sit. One board member would probably sit where Mr. Powell is tonight. And they are 6 foot apart. They just kind of have to move to each side, so to speak. Alderman Cruz is over to the far as he can go and still have some desk space, and Alderman Thompson's there beside of him. So we can certainly make it work. If you all decide to come back to live meetings, the mask requirement in this last executive order does give some flexibility that if you're doing a presentation, and I think it was this way in the previous order, but if you're doing a presentation or speaking, then you don't have to wear your mask, which is why you see the board members tonight without the mask on. They're not actually presenting all the time, but through the back and forth asking questions. But so yes, we can certainly go back to in-person meetings here as far as the board's concerned, and we can accommodate about 24 people in the courtroom, socially distanced at 6 foot. That has not changed, and to be honest, I don't see that changing. Probably by May, it's possible that they may drop it to 3 feet, or do something with, vaccinations if folks have been vaccinated or whatever. But, that aside, we can accommodate 24 sitting and probably, another 10 standing, 12 standing, somewhere in there. We can work with staff to probably view the meeting somehow from their office. The ones that don't have an item on the agenda, those that do can be in the courtroom, certainly, and come in and out if we need to for capacity reasons or social distance reasons. But we're ready to go if y'all are ready to go, and if not, we can continue on like we have. I mean, it's good either way with us, but we're good to go if you all are.
As additional information, access to vaccine has improved. As of April 7th, which is this Wednesday in North Carolina, anyone ages 16 and up is eligible to take a vaccine dose. And there are continued efforts locally to have vaccines available, including a J&J vaccine clinic with Johnson & Johnson one-dose vaccine announced for the weekend of April 10th through the health department or Novant Health. There's availability more than there was previously of vaccines at local pharmacies. I've heard of many people being able to find a vaccine at Walgreens, not necessarily the Kernersville Walgreens, but Walgreens in general. And the Kernersville pharmacy has received Johnson & Johnson doses and was making appointments for people to have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So that was a big change from last month.
And I did forget to mention, Madam Mayor, that we're also, we've done some trial runs, Adam Hutchins and his group in the IT department, and it might be necessary for the May meeting. I don't know. We'll see how the crowd is at the planning board meeting coming up, but we can set up an overflow area in the basement of the old library down where the senior center is, so that if we have a crowd here, we can have those folks go over to that area and they can view the meeting and call in from there to do that. We have discussed it. We would probably, I don't know that we'd recommend still allowing call-ins, but that's certainly up to you all. If you go back to live meetings, I would recommend having the folks come to the meeting, either go to the overflow or come here at town hall and join the meeting that way. But we can do whatever. But just wanted you to know there is a possibility that there might be more than 24 people at the May meeting, at which point we would have them go over to the senior center there at the basement of the old library.
Okay, is there any discussion or is there a motion?
As the one board member that's sitting at home and not in person, I think we have been diligent enough, and I'm willing to make a motion to return to in-person meetings.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. And I would also like to make sure that we're going to live stream it, just in case. I know that we're easing back into this, so I don't want it to go to.
That's a different, that's the next agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a little late. Thank you for that, Alderman Boyer. I'll just second the in-person meeting.
All right, and beginning with the April 28th briefing and the May 4 regular. I've got a motion and a second. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Boyer.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Penix.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Cruz.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson.
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. All right, item U, consideration of live streaming briefing and regular meetings of the Board of Aldermen on YouTube. Mr. Swisher?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we can certainly live stream the meetings. We feel confident we can do it without the go-to meeting. If you do it without the go-to meeting, if someone is at home watching it on YouTube, they would not be able to call in like they do now to do that, but you're not required by state statute to provide that. But we can certainly live stream it where they can see it. There's also the option of, if we do the overflow in the basement of the library, we could live stream it to basically a locked channel where only the folks over there would see it. No one else would be able to see it. So, and we could do that for the department heads as well. Of course, if we live stream it and open it up for just like it is now for anyone on YouTube to see, then, the department heads could see it from wherever, and the folks in the library could see it as well. So either way, it's up to the board. We could do it. It would be a little bit of a different live stream if we don't use GoToMeeting. It'd be a little bit of a different live stream. We would have a stationary camera. Adam is working on that, and we can get a camera that will basically get a view of everyone here in the courtroom. We may have, we'd have to change some seating a little bit, but we can get a view of everybody. You all would use your regular microphones as opposed to the earpieces with a microphone on them, and so the sound quality wouldn't be the best in the world. It may not be the best in the world now. I can't hear myself because my laptop is plugged in, so I can't hear anything I'm saying except for just me normally talking. So it may not be the best quality anyway on YouTube. I don't know, but we can certainly live stream it either way that the board chooses to do that.
I just have a quick question, Curtis. I mean, if we're coming back in person like we are tonight with 4 of us being here, if it's helpful to do the GoToMeeting and have our laptops set up, I have no problem doing that. I just want to make sure that we don't go from live in person and then not stream at all, because it will take other people time to catch up, or they might not feel comfortable coming, but they want to watch our meetings because they have been going back and watching them. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and we'll look at that. I think it can be done a little easier not using GoTo. And I'll ask Adam, but I think the difference is if we do it just a live stream with YouTube and we don't do the GoToMeeting, Adam, am I correct in saying that someone would not be able to call in and call in through GoToMeeting? Is that correct?
That's fine, but didn't you just recommend have people come in person if they want to ask a question anyway?
I would, yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm good with that. I just want to make sure that they can see it.
The only time we would utilize GoToMeeting is if the board wants to accept callers from the public, because that's the medium that we're using to transfer from the traditional telephone to where you all can hear.
Well, I think we're all learning, and I'm okay whatever is simpler for you that accomplishes both things. Thank you, Adam. Thanks, Curtis.
I think it makes sense to, because for instance, what Winston-Salem does is they actually just stream their meeting for anyone that wants to watch it on, I guess, public access is where I've seen it before. There's no chance for anybody else outside unless you're live at the meeting in person to ask questions or have anything to say about it. It's just to keep the public informed of what's going on if they want to watch it. So I'm okay with live streaming it. If people want to watch, if they want to speak and be heard, then they need to come to the meeting, in my opinion.
We can certainly do that.
Is that a motion?
Are we talking about setting this only through the pandemic, or are we trying to set a policy for the future?
I think we got to work on the cameras in the budget before we do the future. So I would say it's just for right now, but Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong.
The budget, the agenda item doesn't specify, so that would be something the board could specify in the motion.
Oh, so we can make it forever?
There's not a time period listed in the in the agenda item.
Well, I want to make sure Alderman Boyer doesn't have any questions, but I'm ready to make that motion.
I think we should deal with the pandemic time and then see where we stand on the budget. I think the budget's going to have a lot of new items in there. I'm not sure the investment is worth it, an investment of time and money. I think when people are uncomfortable with being in crowds during the pandemic, it's very reasonable to have the ability to live stream.
So I guess my question would be, Curtis, you're talking about setting up a camera in the back of the courtroom. That's kind of the same thing, isn't it? We just would set up a camera of whatever. What kind of camera are you planning on setting up and what you were referring to?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking one of the, and I'll let Adam tell you, but there's a big difference between what we're going to do and if you're going to live stream it all the time, what you would need to do to get the good quality sound, the good quality picture and all of that. I mean, we'll have a stationary camera set up to kind of take it all. It won't move, it won't adjust or any of that. So, I mean, it will get you all and will pick up what you say, but it wouldn't be something. I mean, Winston-Salem, you mentioned Winston-Salem, they live stream their meetings, but it's a much bigger production than just having a camera set up. I mean, and Adam can tell you, but we're probably just one step above having an iPad set on a tripod and kind of video on everybody and live stream it. Is that about it, Adam?
So what we've done with the equipment that we have is we actually took down one of the surveillance cameras from the data center. It's similar to the one right over there, but it's a longer camera, just to see if we can get a video stream from it. And so we're able to do that and incorporate it with the streaming software that we're using. We figured out a way to directly plug the microphones in that you all will be using to that stream. But as Curtis said, the difference is this is a camera made for surveillance to sit there. There's no zoom capabilities. There's no, changing of the shots. It's very, very basic. And as Curtis said, it's about one step up, just having an iPad sitting in there.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much not a Band-Aid, but just a way to get you through the pandemic until people can come back and we can have capacity in the courtroom. I think after that point, if you wish to live stream, I think you would need to look at some better technology to do that for different reasons. So, but I think this will accomplish the goal of live streaming during the pandemic when we can't be at full capacity in the courtroom. And allow us to.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Curtis.
It will allow us to have an overflow area also.
I'd be in favor of exploring that, and that to me might take care of Alderman Boyer's concerns of budgetary items for now. And we can kind of see what we may need in the future by setting something up a little simpler now and learning what we may need.
We can do that. And it will be a good, kind of a good test run to let us know where we are technology wise.
But what if we went full time beyond the pandemic, approximately what kind of cost are we talking about? I mean, if y'all.
Yeah, we got a quote on, I don't remember, Adam. Do you remember what it was?
$12,000 to $15,000. And that's just for the cameras. We've already got the microphones in place. We've already got the sound system in place. So this would be building onto a system that we set up years prior.
So that's what we're doing now, basically, is we're just taking some already existing pieces and kind of putting them together. To go further, it would have to buy those.
The one thing I would add is it will be a production at that point. I mean, it would be somebody in the control room zooming in on the cameras and doing probably a little bit more than what Winston-Salem and Forsyth County currently do.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, not really. Anything I said, I would be expressing an opinion. From the legal standpoint, you're fine doing it either way or not doing it at all.
Okay, Mr. Wolf, when you say either way, meaning come back in person and live stream, but if somebody has a concern or wants to speak, come in person, not taking the calls. That would just be a stream to where somebody could see the meeting for information. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying at this point we either need to come back live and cut off YouTube or stick with YouTube?
I think you can do either one. I don't think there's any any legal restriction on either of those. And what I was saying was, for me to go further is probably expressing, an opinion. I will go so far as to say that I think if you're going back live, then those who wish to speak to the board should speak to the board in person. And
I'm in agreement with you on that.
And whatever you use, whether you use the one step above the laptop, or you go back with the production cameras and vocal and so forth that you've addressed in the past, whatever you go back with, at that point, I think that's just for viewing, should be just for viewing by your citizenry.
I'm good with that, Mr. Wolf. I'm really good. I just think it's important. We've been live streaming for 9 months, 10 months now. That you just don't want to cut it off of YouTube immediately because we're going back in person. And I think if somebody wants to speak to the board, then by all means, since we're in person, please come and speak to the board. But I think it's important that our citizens see what is happening, especially with the things that are coming up, and also the unknown future. We never know if we're going back, what's going to happen. I don't even want to put it out in the universe that something else could happen, but it could. So that's my 2 cents.
I do think for clarity, any motion coming forth should state which kind of video and voice you want, whether it's the one step above laptop or whether it's purchasing something and you don't have anything in your budget for that at this point. So I think you need to state how you want it done and for the length of time. And by that, I don't think there's a date specific that's necessary. You could say something at such time as the governor allows full capacity, in the courtroom or something along those lines. And then you could readdress this in the future.
Thank you for that advice. I think I got it. I'm ready to make a motion when you're ready, Mayor.
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. I'd like to make the motion that we consider live streaming for visual viewing only. If you're going to speak to the board, you have to come back in person. And I'd like that to go through June 30th into our next budget so that we can address getting better cameras for the next fiscal year. Will that work, Mr. Wolf?
Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Do I have a second?
Does that motion then say that we're going to try and work better cameras into the budget? Or does it give a termination date or review date?
No, sir. Alderman Boyer, this was a big discussion a couple months ago for me, and we decided that it needed to get in the budget. So this is an opportunity to do that. So my motion is for us to look at cameras after June 30th for our next budget. So going forward and for the future, people will be able to use the technology that's available to view the Board of Aldermen meetings if they cannot come in person. But if they want to come in person and speak to the board, then they need to come in person. So to answer your question, I'm really looking for cameras come June 30th.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Keith, will you read back Mayor Pro Tem Fulton's motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, because I wanted to ask Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, you mentioned video only in your original motion. What did you mean by video?
Thank you. That's a great question. And we probably want to clarify it. It will have audio and video, but you can't call in
Okay, thank
to
you.
the live stream and ask questions. If there is anything you want to discuss, you need to come to our in-person meetings, as long as we are holding an in-person meeting. If we were to go back to remote meetings, then we would have to allow the public and our citizens access to call in. But I don't think that needs to be part of the motion. Mr. Wolf?
Well, it certainly can be. That's up to you.
Well, I want to keep it kind of easy for Keith.
Do you want Keith to read back what he has, or do you want to restate it?
I'll try to help you, Keith, if you want me to, or do you want to read it back? What would be helpful for you?
This is what I have at the moment. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton made a motion to live stream until June 30th, while requiring anyone who wants to speak to the board to appear in person and to review the use of cameras after June 30th.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Is that Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Got a second from Chris. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
Opposed. Thank you.
Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1. Keith, have you got the vote?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we are to agenda item 3, which is the consent agenda. And it's printed on the agenda, but I'll review. All of the following matters are considered to be routine and enacted and will be enacted by one motion unless a board member or citizen objects. Item A is approval of minutes for the February 24 briefing meeting. B, approval of minutes for the March 2 regular meeting. C, approval of minutes for the March 2 closed session. And D, consideration of a request by the Kiwanis Club of Kernersville for the Town Hall courtyard for Miss Mary's Children's Parade. Would anyone like to see any of these items removed from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion by Chris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Fulton. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Alderman Thompson?
In favor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, items removed from the consent agenda. There were none. Speakers from the floor. Is there anyone who has wandered into the courtroom who'd like to address the board on a non-agenda item?
No, ma'am.
Adam, is there anyone who's called in for that purpose?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have town manager's report.
I do not have anything, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That's appropriately short for the hour, Mr. Swisher. Thank you. All right, matters to be presented by the town attorney.
I have nothing at this time. There is a request. I appreciate a motion and vote to go into closed session.
All right, thank you. Matters to be presented by the Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton.
I have nothing at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Boyer.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson.
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have to say, wow, what amazing presentations we've heard last month and this month from the nonprofits and all of the great things that are happening in Kernersville. Just makes your heart feel good, and really appreciate the small town we live in. So everybody's just doing a great job. We'll have a lot to talk about when we get to the budget. All right. Is there a motion for closed session?
I'll be glad to read the motion. It's my understanding, Madam Mayor, that there are certain matters about which our town attorney needs to advise us and which fall within the attorney-client privilege for a discussion in closed session. I therefore move, Madam Mayor, that the board go into closed session to confer with our legal counsel under the attorney-client privilege for such matters.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Chris Thompson. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you.
And would everyone like to take a 10-minute recess or 7-minute recess? All right, so I saw some thumbs up. So let's get back at, let's say, 11:12. Welcome back to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. We have just exited our closed session. Is there any further business before the board this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Fulton?
Mayor, I just have a quick question. Since we have voted to go back into live session at the end of April and May, will that also put the planning board back in live? I did have a brief chat with Mr. Hatling while we were out on a break, and he said probably not May, but that they would look at going back live and using the fire station. So I just want to make sure that we get that word out how they're going to do it as well.
Yeah, I had checked with our community development director, Jeff Hatling, about that prior to our discussing that. And I think he had it worked out with Curtis, but he had said that the planning board's decision could be separate from ours because there are so many people on the planning board.
Okay. Well,
it creates social distancing issues.
They have their own rules and regulations and so forth. And so when this board, went out in COVID and set this up, we did not set up anything for the planning board. They did it themselves. And so they would come back into whatever they want to themselves. That makes sense.
It did. Thank you. Because that does make sense because they changed their time from 7 to 6 because of COVID. So I'll just follow to see what they do when they make their decision. Thank you both. Good night.
I think some of it, well, don't leave yet. I think some of it, we're not quite done. But, I think some of the considerations were the disruption of moving from the regular meeting place was a concern. But as Mr. Swisher earlier said, if the social distancing requirements are modified or eliminated, then that would make it easier for them to return.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
They fit the entire planning board on the bench that Curtis is planning to put five of us on. So be kind of tight.
Yeah, I've attended those meetings. So that when Jeff brought up the fire station, I thought that was a really good idea in the community room.
But that's their decision, as John Wolf has said. All right. Any further business before the Board of Aldermen this evening? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Yeah, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Second from Joe Penix. Motion by Chris Thompson. Chris, did you make the motion?
Yeah.
Okay. Got a motion by Chris, second by Joe. Mayor Pro Tem Fulton, how do you vote?
In favor. Good night now. How about that?
That works. Thank you. Alderman Boyer?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Penix?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Cruz?
In favor, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson?
In favor, thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This meeting is now adjourned.